You could have heard this episode 48 hours early on our Patreon, patreon.com/indieheadspodcast. By joining us for as low as $1 a month, you'll receive episodes early, gain access to our Discord server, and get yourself an Indie Heads podcast sticker. All of our upcoming episodes we put on our Patreon 48 hours before it hits our public podcast feeds. But if you're hearing this via our Patreon feed, we thank you so much for your support. We especially want to thank all of our Patreon supporters, including our real ones like Becca Etienne, Georgia Mikowski, James Boss, Marcy Anime, Chance Holdup, Delaney Mothman, Josiah Duncan, Jenna L., Matt Cameron, A History of Violet, Connie, Javon Clement, Jimmy Elward, T. Christie, Charles, Nicole Rifkin, Tim's Discount Prices, Heath and Catherine, Jay, Rena, Ian, Matthew Taylor, I Like Books, Sarah Moore, Griff, Max Kapazinski, Mark Barry, Cal 50, Chris Wade, Midwest Maxwell, Jake Wald, Grant, Keep Autism Weird, Max, Dylan, Zach, Gav Hardy Freak, Amber, and Maze Farms. And if you want to be amongst these names, consider supporting us on Patreon, where if you upgrade to the real one tier, you'll receive a bonus episode every month on top of your other perks. And before we move into the episode proper, I just want to thank the rest of our Patreon supporters like Jason Daphnis, Kevin Cookman, A. Watt, Ali Eleanor, Cheddaz, Nato, Robin Parlow, Eric Chow, Holiday Kirk, Tyrone Shuhan, Jay Amjadi, Alexis Davin, Cody Gagan, Barely March, Minka LaFleur, Will Griffin, Corbin Camage, Gavlin, Matthew, Ethan Sapir, Matthew McPherson, Randy Donaldson, Eleanor Grams, Wilford Thrill, Gears420, Lily, Jacqueline Kataga, Alec Felder, Talks to Trees, Molly O'Brien, AJ Moser, Eraser Red Baby, Matthew Herring, Jack Tiggleman, Sarah L., Jeremy Bull, Alex Gershinoff, and Derek Pemberton. Anyways, though, enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to Best New Podcast. It's Jackie. This is a podcast about Pitchfork. It's not a podcast about how you're not allowed to say you hate LA when you don't travel past the 10. Unfortunately, this is not
a question. Is this a podcast for discussion about Randy Newman's I Love LA? Because
I mean, always, because I'm on this episode, but this is not a emergency episode about Kendrick Lamar's GNC. As per usual, we summoned him. We talk about someone, and then a week later they show up.
Even worse. He talked about Brian Pumper. Like we absolutely have to be at least 10% responsible.
This is true.
For
That's
this.
actually
It's
the first thing we
up.
need to break news. I mean, but he actually was on Brian Pumper before us because, of course, years ago, Kendrick Lamar has a tweet about how Brian Pumper
multiple tweets
about Brian Pumper and Owen and Shave. So it's really more just that Kendrick Lamar and us have the shared interest of discovering guys. Like we have that we bond over. And until he makes a Big Bopper reference, we cannot assume he's in the Discord, but it's possible. There's a non-zero chance that he is in the Discord. But unfortunately, we're not talking about Kendrick today. We're not even talking about Father John Misty today. Although, as I said before the podcast, I have never felt more like we live in a time loop than I did right now. I still cannot believe that I watched Twin Peaks: The Return the night before the election, like the finale of that show, and then this has all happened. Like it's so fucking weird, man. But we're here to talk about actual 2015, not 2015-2 that we're living through right now. And
technically 2016 too, if we really want to be accurate.
I had to intro with the Kendrick stuff because the thing I immediately have to say is there are like 5 songs this episode that I just could not listen to today fairly because I just heard the new 100%. Kendrick record, like my brain has been entirely rewired by like the most exciting first listen I've had in several years. So that's a caveat here if I'm like a little crankier maybe than usual, but also I had a couple of like holy shit moments listening to this playlist, including some that I like was not personally like. This was a very interesting playlist in that I had different reactions than I expected to in different directions multiple times listening to it, which is like the most fun version of this, as opposed to just like, album song that I thought rules still rules, Like I have a lot of interesting feelings to sort through here, I think.
This is a true time capsule playlist. We do get a little taste of everything that was going on in 2015 on this episode. And speaking of on this episode, we have a guest on this episode,
true.
Of course.
I got sidetracked already.
Again, Kendrick drops an album that's like more about LA than usual, and Jackie's acting up.
It's really true. It's really true. But we have a special guest, Grace Robins-Somerville.
Hi.
You know her if you're on our part of the internet, almost certainly. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here on a very historic day in long 2016.
and also it's great that Grace is on this episode for a variety of reasons. One, of course, very good longtime friend of the podcast, and also Grace and I attended the last Pitchfork Music Festival in Chicago ever this year.
R.I.P.
And we did an episode about it, and I think during the episode I was like, this is probably gonna be the last one. It feels like the last one, and people were like, no, Matty, what are you talking about? There's no way this is gonna be the last one. But I was like, no, this is the last one. It's the last one. And, it was the last one.
You were. I mean, I had the same experience this year at South by Southwest, which was that like everyone I talked to was like, yeah, this is the last time we're doing this, right? Like almost to a person. Like the vibes of like this thing has gone on longer than it should have. It's a weird time in general. You don't need us to tell you that, listener.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you do need us to tell you to do your dance. You got to do your dance, everyone. It's time for all of us to do our dance and start this playlist off with a real banger.
Yes, this is YG's "Twist My Fingaz." Where again, many questions to ponder, but most importantly, will YG do his dance?
We'll
So
find out in a
long
few minutes.
will he do his dance?
I have been saving this.
Wait.
Real quickly. I have been saving this joke all week because the Do I Dance stuff has been happening, and I didn't want to make this comparison until I was on mic with Matty specifically.
No.
I've been listening to a lot of the Lonely Islands podcast with Seth Meyers because, as much as I hate to admit it, I am secretly an SNL dork too. Don't tell anyone. The Do My Dance part of the song is exactly like the part of Golden Rule 3-Way where they're doing the yeah. No. It's like the same. It's the same cadence.
Oh fuck!
It's the same thing.
Totally. Oh my god, you're right. And by the way, this goes to show that every time that Jackie makes fun of me, it's a projection. It's always a projection.
Sometimes I'm right and you are a dork, but sometimes yes. Sometimes yes, it is.
Jackie sees herself in me and gets afraid and goes to teasing and bullying.
We'll talk later about Matty Core and whatever. But this is I like this, but like I said earlier, listening it today was not the right day to listen to this because Kendrick Lamar is currently like reinventing what West Coast rap sounds like, and to hear like something that is so pastiche in a purposeful way just does feel a little bit like sillier. Like I really liked this album and liked it at the time, but I don't know, there is something about it that is like old school West Coast cosplay in a way that like even the YG album before this, My Crazy Life, is not, because at the time, obviously, Mustard in the news today, the Mustard sound came and went pretty quickly in that people sort of decided they were tired of it or that it was too one note. Those people were wrong, but people sort of like reacted against that. And I think the whole like impetus of this YG album was him trying to be like, I'm not just the Mustard guy. Like I also can do these like old school, I like really want to be like Snoop Dogg type rap music, you know? And I really like this, but yeah, it's just very West Coast in a like obvious way. The G-Funk synths, all of the
he wanted to be on the GTA 5 soundtrack so fucking bad with this one. He wanted to be on GTA 5 so bad. And who can blame him?
I was going to say that the difference between listening to GNX and listening to So Brazy is the difference between driving around LA in Grand Theft Auto versus like actually being in Los Angeles, you know?
Yes. Yes, and that's not the takeaway, because I do think I will agree this is a good song, but of course, as has probably been stated before on the podcast, I was a YG hater before I guess this record.
I guess.
I do not like I really do not like My Crazy Life.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good record, because when you talk about people being tired of DJ Mustard, that was me. I was like, this guy he's barely even one note. He's like he's not even at one note. But the thing with Mustard is that like he went away because oh shit, this guy was actually like at the time was a very limited producer.
No.
And he went away for a few years, honed his craft, and now he's a very good producer. He's been able to add certain again, he still very much has a signature sound, but his limitations are no longer
he also just got
boxed in.
Done dirty by his own overexposure, in that like everyone wanted a beat from him, so we just heard like every variation on the same idea that he had at the time.
Everyone shut the fuck up. YG is doing his dance.
It is true.
If he made this song today, he would have to say that he's doing his TikTok dance.
God damn it. God damn it, Grace.
It's true.
You're right.
It's true.
You're right. I don't want to admit it, but you're right.
I'm always twisting my fingers too, but that's just because I got joint problems. It's really not that special.
But that being said, this is a very good song. But again, it is very pastiche-y. But like,
It's the best kind of that, though. I'd argue. Like,
I agree. I'm being picky. Like, I liked the song at the time. I still do like the song now.
Like here's like, if we recorded this episode a day before on Thursday, Jackie would be a lot more positive on this song.
This is all correct. I am only like just seeing into the future right now, and so having a little bit of a hard time taking myself back to high school with Jackie. But also, like, the thing I do like about the new record is it does feel like the evolution of that kind of raw Mustard sound that had so much in common with like what Bay Area hip hop was doing at the time, and like that kind of Bay Area Detroit connection of sort of the Spartan, like I really like My Crazy Life. I think that's like a fucking incredible record. I was listening to it again earlier today, and even though like all of the big hits on it like are incredibly 2014 as hell, it's like it's like In Color, where it's just like I had too much fun at the time to like care about that now. But there's also like stuff like the Kendrick feature on that record that I really like, and some stuff on that record that I think is kind of underrated. But
Still Crazy is also like 2016 as hell. Like
2016.
It does. Like when I re-listened to this song, I was like, that is a mid 2010s ass beat. Like that is
for sure.
That is a 2015 Primaries beat.
There's a thing with music aging. I really strongly believe in this. Like 5 to 6 years is actually like the worst age for anything to be, and it's the reason why 5-year anniversary pieces suck, because like Phoebe Bridgers' Punisher is 5 years old right now, and that's a great example of something that doesn't feel far enough in the past for us to feel nostalgic for it yet, and we're also still dealing with all of the like knock-on imitators. And so like sometimes 5 years is like the most stale something can be, whereas once you get back to 10 years, like current music sounds different enough that you can appreciate the old thing for like what it is, and it doesn't, and sometimes that makes you realize like, oh, this actually was super of its time and doesn't make any sense now. And sometimes it's like, oh, now that I've removed myself from the setting, I actually realize this is just a great song, you know? And I think this, now that we're getting into stuff that is not 5 years old currently, because this is almost 10 years old, Jesus Christ. But like, we're starting to get closer and closer to that window where it's like not so far off in the past that I can kind of look back nostalgically on it, but also not keeping up with stuff that we're currently experiencing. Like I'd either rather listen to actual 90s West Coast hip hop or current West Coast hip hop for the most part at this point in my life.
Yeah.
But
and My Crazy Life is like, for lack of a better term, it was very current at the time. It was in many ways like, hey, here is the current path forward
100%.
for West Coast hip hop. And so which is why I, even if I don't get it like personally, I get it just overall being like, hey, at the time this was a fairly new and fresh sound.
I also think,
and I think
the other thing is that this is a good album. There are 4 albums after this that are all we have still Brazy at Home, like Red Friday, Stay Dangerous, For Real, My Life 400. Like I do not know most, even like I listened to the first 2 of those when they came out at the time, and both of them, like when Big Bank comes out a couple years later, there's no part of Big Bank that doesn't feel like just retreads of what this album is doing. And I think he just sort of loses sight of who he is, besides the guy that is the torchbearer for like West Coast hip hop in the game Dr. Dre sort of way, you know?
Mm-hmm. Also, he has a collab album with Tyga called "Hit Me When You Leave the Club," the playlist, that's fucking Drake. Jesus Christ!
Do we want to start talking about Drake now? Because it feels like we've really wrapped up things, and it's clear that we are about to like enter actual minefield here of just like
let's rip
how
the
do you talk about this ever?
Yeah, we've been doing. I wanted us to do our dance for a while, but we've got so much to talk about that I guess we'll just have to leave that for another
now
day.
We have a new dance to do.
Exactly, we have another dance to do.
Not yet a one dance, but a dance. A dance,
not a one dance. This is like a 0.5 dance.
I'm going to be honest, these days, it's with inflation, we're going to need a 2 dance at this point. It's getting bad out here.
Matty, I think you're being generous. This is a 0 dance from me. This gets a hard 0.0 dance.
I disagree. But of course, we're talking about Hotline Bling by Drake, which, here's the thing. This song was so fucking big when it came out, and we're kind of past its cultural moment. And obviously, as we kind of have been discussing throughout the series when we've talked about Drake, really weird and bad time to be talking about Drake right now, especially when Drake was good, because was he actually that good? And the answer is
case, yes.
Sometimes, yeah.
I think
in most yes, he
could
was
not
that good.
disagree with everyone else in this call more. This is like the worst any Drake song we've talked about yet has aged. I'd rather listen to Energy than this right now. Seriously.
Well, Energy, yeah. Okay. Let me make the case. Okay,
I always hated Views, Rose. I always hated Views.
I hate Views too. I have always hated Views.
It's too early. Here's the thing. It is too early to be talking about Views because this was not intended to be on Views. This is
true.
A one-off single that got added to Views later on to boost the stream numbers so it could go higher on the charts.
It's also such foreshadowing for how the rest of Drake's career would go, and like his
100%.
pattern of like beefing up all his albums with just like so much.
As Zach said it today, Kendrick choosing to not put "Not Like Us" on his new album is ethical hooping. That is playing the game the way that the game was meant to be played. And yeah, no, Drake is the opposite of that. So I did something that I have not done in a while, which is that before this playlist, I listened to Dram Cha Cha for the first time in probably 7 years. And the main thing I took away is that is such a better song in every single conceivable way than this song is actually. Like, that's what made me hate this song. It's not even just like, oh, Drake is corny now, these lyrics are so lame, but just do the side by side for us right now real quickly and put it on.
Let me pull up Dram Cha Cha.
Because the thing about Cha Cha is that it's joyous, it's fun, it's goofy in a self-conscious way, and also the whole point of the song is he's like, I'm not Spanish, but I love to cha-cha. And then Drake just like makes it not Spanish at all and also makes it about calling girls. And I wasn't even a Dram like true believer like that. And this is so much better and more fun and aged better in my opinion. Anyways, it's just ridiculous that this was like, why was this what put Drake over? That's what I don't get. Like, I like so many.
Okay.
I like plenty of the crossover hits.
Okay, actually, I want to explain too, but Rose, I'm curious. I'm surprised that you're coming out defending this song, so I definitely want to hear from you on.
I truly think it just comes down to like the effortlessness feeling of this. Like there's a sense that he is like not even trying on this because he probably isn't. Like this is Drake on total fucking autopilot, but like At the same time, I kind of don't care. Like, I'm just having a good time. It is like it is one of those songs that feels like purely plucked from the ether, and I think people to an extent just kind of gravitated towards it because it's just like, yeah, this is fun. There's no IQ, no brain cells needed to enjoy this song. You can just tap in.
Yeah.
And it's just like, ever since I left the city, I bet he did. I bet he left the city.
There's also like, I feel like this was such a very specific era of Drake as like a figure in the cultural imagination, because this was like, I don't know, this is the thing that created that like Drake meme where he's like, no, like where he's turning away from something versus where he's
listeners, you know the one. Whatever one you're thinking, you know the one.
This era was like the era of like sad Drake. It's like people were tweeting stuff like
Drake memes. Drake memes.
The shampoo bottle and it says no more tears, and he sighs and says maybe one day, or like just
that's true.
The way, also like the way that we make fun of Drake, I feel like has changed so much. In like, we go through cycles. Like, it's fascinating. Drake has like eras, but not pertaining to his music, but pertaining to like what the memes are surrounding him.
No, it's something that we've identified. It's that when you go back to the early Drake stuff and remember back to those conversations, it's not like we thought he was cool and then we thought he was goofy. Yeah. We've always thought he was goofy. We used to be charmed by it, and now we're less charmed by it. And I think that like, I really like some of the old Drake songs, especially like everything kind of, if you're reading this and earlier, like he was the like head empty, I'm sad about a girl, but like I think that this song is like coasting on that cultural reputation when it is like the most annoying and cloying version of that he's ever done. Like, I'd rather listen to Marvin's Room or whatever, his actual sad about a girl song.
Okay. All right, I need to speak. Of course, right now I have a playlist pulled up that I made in 2015 that is just Hotline Bling by Drake 100 times in a row because I fucking love this song when it came out. I'm gonna show. Here's how I prove to you how much I love the song when it came out. Of course, famously, I own an original copy of Government Plates by Death Grips, and of course, I have the license plate. But as you may see, it's kind of dinged up. You know, it's dinged up, and you know why that is. I made a bet on Twitter back in the day saying that, hey, Hotline Bling is going to go #1 this week. And if it doesn't, I'm going to bust up my Government Plates plate. And you know what? I'm a man of my word. And I busted up the plate. I hit it with a baseball bat a couple times on the ground in my backyard, my parents' backyard. And I did it. And so that goes to show that how much I love the song at the time. And do I love the song that much anymore? No. But here's the thing. Whether you like it or not, Jackie, or really anybody in this call or anyone listening, Hotline Bling is a perfect pop song. It is a perfect pop song. Doesn't have a multitude of flaws, especially when it comes to the lyrics. Of course, as Jackie, as you said, he's so cloying and like needy and narcissistic, and just it's a little icky, right? But you know what song is also a perfect pop song, but is also kind of icky? The Police, Every Breath You Take. That is also kind of an icky song. I get what you mean. It's still a perfect pop song. My issue is not that, like, I think
so
the construction
didn't go #1,
is simply
by the way.
too good to deny. It's too good to deny.
I disagree with you completely. Like, it's not that I think that, like, the problem is that, like, I don't like Drake singing about women anymore. Like, I did not like this song at the time. I swear to fucking God, I did not like it at the time. Like,
that's fair.
I liked other songs on this record. I liked God's Plan more than this song. Like, when you're talking about just like head empty, like tapping into the cultured nonsense, like I'd rather listen to God's Plan than this for sure. Like, I would rather listen to Way Too Sexy than this. I would rather listen to so many other like Drake Wants Attention songs than this.
I'm with you on some of those. I'm not, like, obviously me and Jack, we were both in the Way Too Sexy defense squad. I don't think that song got shit on at the time. I don't think, especially compared to like where Drake would go even just like a year or two later, that song is not that bad. But that's the thing, is that like you can hate the song all you want, Jackie, and I do not blame you. All your criticisms are extremely valid and not incorrect. but at the end of the day, it is just kind of a perfect pop song that is clearly endured for some kind of reason. The construction, you see a house of cards, I see a brick shit house, right? Like I
think it's endured as a meme. I refuse to believe that people like listen to this song. That is also
an important point.
I refuse to believe that people are just like, you know what I want to do right now is listen to Hotline Bling as opposed to people.
The problem is it is impossible to gain a proper perception of this because we are now living in the post-certified lover boy, certified pedophile era. Like, it is impossible to judge anybody's interest in Drake at this point because like it's just
true.
Been
but
the fuck off.
I'm genuinely I know that's clouding it, but like I would have been this mean in some alternate universe where Drake is still like coasting somehow. Like, if we were still in the Her Loss era of Drake reception, I would be just as mean to this song, in my opinion.
I want to read a thing I wrote in my notes app, but I like woke up in the middle of the night to write this in my notes app like 2 months ago.
Oh, no. Okay.
Disengaged
all right, what do you got for us?
2021, Drake the type of guy to wiggle his fingers and go, ooh, don't mind if I do, when he sees a plate of delicious cookies. Missing Drake in 2024. Aubrey Drake Graham is a fundamentally evil human being, and every minute we continue to let him keep walking this earth is an affront to all that is good and holy. So I feel like that kind of, like, we can't even be like, haha, Drake is like this fucking cartoon character anymore. Now it's like, we're in a post not like us world, and it's like we maybe we don't deserve a one dance. Like
we deserve a no dance.
Mm-hmm. To segue us into the next song that we can sort of wrap into this, because spoiler alert, the next best new track that we're talking about is the Erykah Badu cover of Hotline Bling called Cellular Device.
Off of her very nice tape, but you can't use my phone.
Very good tape.
So, great playlist construction this week.
Freshman year of college.
Ooh.
My big thing with Hotline Bling in this episode is, as I said, I listened to the Dram song and I listened to this, and both of them are just taking the same like bones of a song and doing literally anything else with it, and I enjoy both of them more. Like. And that's not to say that, like, the first one has some kind of, like, earwormy thing that it is, like, lazily copying from the Dram song, but I don't think that's a perfect pop song. I think this is right place, right time. I think this is the right, like, Drake had just sort of amassed enough cultural momentum, and this is, like, his Avengers Endgame, like, cashing in on it, you know?
I think the other thing, like... I know. I only noticed
because we talked about this last week.
I only noticed because like Matty pulled up the review for it, but I forgot that he dropped this like in the middle of his Meek Mill beef, which was like peak kind of like Drake is the champion of the people. He's on top, like fucking like debuted it like right alongside those disses, and that was just a fucking big cultural moment where all anybody wanted to talk about was like these damn Drake songs. It's just. What else were we supposed to talk about? We had a one dance. Now what?
Well, we didn't have a one dance yet. One dance has not happened. Rose, we are months before one dance.
Yeah, I'm a Drake apologist to certain extent.
Dawn of the one dance, Rose. We're at Dawn of the one dance.
I think More Life is a good album. That's part of why
you mean a playlist?
It's
a good playlist.
I was such a Jesus Christ. I was so much of a hater on Views, because then even after Views it's like I'm not against just this guy existing, even though now I guess I am, but like at the time it was just like, no, this guy has just like lost the plot. And I really do think that both the Erykah Badu version and the Dram version are just doing actual things that Hotline Bling.
It's fucking Erykah Badu. Of course she's gonna do it better. Like,
but I think we're lowering the bar for Drake. We're lowering the bar for Drake. Yes, obviously, but like Dram, Dram cannot do anything better than anyone.
That is true.
Dram is fine. Dram had some good songs, but
those Dram songs were pretty good.
Yeah.
I think he just really, he made the fatal mistake of change your name and then realize that people are not going to take your new name and then go back to the old name.
Wait, what did he change it to? Pantera, right?
No. God damn it, Rose.
It was...
No, Rose is making fun of me. It was Shelly, formerly known as Dram. was the name of the album. Which anytime you have to put an FKA in your album title, you're already like admitting defeat. It's like just get rid of the. He just got rid of the dots in it, and now it's all just DRAM with no dots, which is better probably.
Wait, I forgot that there were dots in it. Shit.
That album, Big Baby Dram 2016, it's pretty good. You've got a Young Thug feature, an Erykah Badu feature. You've got Broccoli with Yachty, which is like a very catchy song.
It's so fucked up that they kept giving Chance the Rapper Best New Music, and then they never gave fucking Cash Machine Best New Track. Like, that song just fucking rules.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like, if for the brief era that I was a Chance the Rapper fan, Dram is like my Damo Genesis deserved better, you know? He's like the only person in the Social Experiment crew that we actually should, like, culturally reevaluate, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Also, let's see. I'm looking at Dram's page right now. Let's see. I'm trying to think why I wanted to mention something about Dram. I can't remember. Okay, I can't remember off the top of my head. Dram was cool. Dram was fun. Very very straight. This is another conversation that I want to save maybe for a bonus or something. Of just like what happened. Like Pitchfork gave out so many Best New tracks, and they don't anymore.
Yes,
we can save that for 2019. That's when
2019. Yeah,
that's. I feel like we really got to start talking about it there, because like
that's where the real the shrinking happens.
Matty, I was trying to think of it. Where is the last place that like we as a podcast in things that we're actually discussing about? Where is the last time we intersected with Dram? Don't look this up. Try to rack your mind. What famous
like within the podcast?
I'll give you a hint. A famously disastrous album that we just like goofed all over at the time.
Oh my god, is it The Big Day?
No. But similar in its own special way. But
it can't be the Kid Cudi album. It can't be Speed and Bolt to Heaven, right?
You're so close, and I don't know how to describe how close you are without but no.
Ultra 2? I don't fucking know.
I'll give you an easy hint. The album title has a Z at the end of it.
Bangers by Miley Cyrus.
No, it's Humans. No. Gorillaz Humans. He's on Gorillaz Humans.
Yeah. Well, Natalie's on this episode.
He's on one of the better songs on Humans. I will say that.
We're gonna get another Humans next year if we keep going down the 2017 path, which it seems like we will.
Oh, I am almost certain, like, Damon Albarn is sitting in his little fucking studio right now with his iPad going, "Boy, I know just what to do with this one."
No, actually, he's sitting in his studio complaining about everything they got wrong on the Blur Bandsplain episode this week. That's for sure what he's doing.
God. That being said, I do like this. I mean, for me, I'm gonna be an OG Hotline Bling guy. I'm sorry, I love that song, but I do really like what Erykah does on it. It's essentially the jam band version of Hotline Bling. It's kind of sort of taking its ideas and playing on them a little longer. And I'm not a jam band guy. I kind of just give me the song, give me the song proper. But at the very least, this is mercifully short on like a jam band song. It's a tight 6.5 minutes. About long enough to jam on the ideas you need to jam on, but not too long where it's like, all right, get to the fucking point.
Sorry, but I just remembered. Do you guys remember on Humans how they like censored every time somebody said the name Obama or Donald Trump? Like,
no, I forgot about that.
I do not remember this.
Fucking
oh my god.
I was thinking mainly of fucking Pusha T saying Obama within the first two lines and getting censored.
You know what we really haven't talked about enough is the fact that Rag and Bone Man is on Humans.
The Tug and Bone Man? Yeah. I love that.
I've heard that song in several advertisements while watching sports in the last couple of weeks, and it's really hard to hear some people got the real problems in like a Jesus ad and to take it seriously.
I mean, the dude's in Kazakhstan. He's too busy.
Ronson Round.
I really feel like Jelly Roll has just taken Rag and Bone Man's whole lane. And
100%.
I feel like that's fucked up.
It's. I guess he really does have the real problems now.
He has the real problems now. It's true. He has Jelly Roll problems.
Again, but Jelly Roll will never give us anything as culturally relevant as saw my old history teacher in a pub toilet with Bronson round his hooter dribbling like a toddler telling me I'm not like this. LOL.
I thought you were about to say that he would never get Best New Track, and like Jelly Roll's probably going to get Best New Track.
No, I mean, well,
listen,
Megan
Jelly
Garvey's
Roll
there
will get
now,
Best
so
New Track
Megan
when
Garvey
he
is
returns to rap music in 2029. Okay, I'm calling it now.
Again, the cultural tide will
Jelly
go back to
Roll
it because
will
right
get
now,
Best
obviously,
New
country is
Track
big.
for
and
his
then,
feature on Whoa Annie. We all know this. That's what's gonna happen.
Jesus Christ.
Okay,
fifth episode in a row where we
fifth
revoked
episode
Andy
in a
Clark
row.
rap album.
Probably that doesn't exist, but it will. Speaking of
Let's-
things,
let's-
speaking
here's
of
the thing,
things that
here's
we
the thing.
never thought were going to exist, but then one day they did.
Yes. So when we were putting together the playlist for this season, we saw this and we immediately said, yes, this has to be on here because when else are we ever going to talk about this? And that, of course, is the Dr. Dre album, Compton, and the song from it that got Best New Track, Genocide, featuring Kendrick Lamar, Marsha, Ambrosius, and Candice Pillay.
This album is like one of those cases. It's like the J Electronica record where like somebody comes back after a really long time and they're like all excited. They're like, yeah, he's back. And then like they give him best new music and everything. And then everybody stops talking and we're like, did that happen?
Yeah,
Just,
there's
again,
a lot of noise about
you
this
forget
like
to
when it
exist.
came out, but I completely fucking memory hold it.
It is. So I re-listened to this album this week in preparation for this episode, and I was looking through like older comments about it, early, like just kind of when we were putting together the playlist. I think AJ was like, that album does not exist, and AJ is correct because as I'm listening to the album, I can feel its existence starting to fade away. It's trying so hard to exist. It is trying so hard to be a canonical, great rap album, and you would think with the critical acclaim it got at the time, you would think it would have been that, but by the end of the decade, everybody
End of
fucking
the
forgot
year,
this
I'd
album.
argue. Like people just stopped
might be
talking
shorter.
about it immediately. Like this was supposed to be Detox. People talked about Detox for multiple fucking decades as if it was like a thing that was going to come out, and then finally Dr. Dre puts out an album. It's like, who gives a shit, man? Like,
Which, by the way, we have another one of those albums later on in this episode that we'll be talking about, surprisingly,
which one are you referring to here?
to Chromatics.
Oh yeah, right. Fucking.
See, you already forgot about Dear Tommy. I've not forgotten about Dear Tommy.
Well, I never
we'll
cared
get there
about
when we
the
get there.
Chromatics, so like I can't be a
That's
good
fair.
judge of that.
That's fair.
But I think the whole thing with this getting the acclaim it did was because Dre was like, it's not Detox, it's just my new album. You know what I mean? Like, calling it Compton and bringing in all the guests felt like this way to simultaneously get the comeback love, but also sidestep having to live up to Detox's expectations. And I feel like that lowered people's bar in a way that made people just like appreciate it existing, I guess. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, so a couple things. Obviously, this album is full of features. There's a notable one, which I'll get to next, but a lot of like remember them. Obviously, on this song alone, Marsha Ambrosius.
She's all over this record.
Remember her?
BJ
So,
the Chicago
This
Kid.
is a great time. So I real quickly.
John Connor.
So Matty, you just said it. You've activated my trap card. I have a couple of bits of context for this song, and one of them is a lot of things I learned today about the rapper John Connor.
Oh yes.
So John
and
Connor,
not the guy that would go on to lead the
to
revolution.
lead the humans against the Terminators.
crucially,
Exactly.
his name is spelled Jon Connor as opposed to John.
Why did I think you were going to say JOI for a second, Jackie?
because your mind is in the gutter.
It is in the gutter. JOI Connor.
Terminator Genesis. Oh, you don't want to see this one. It's just real
So
smut.
I assumed
Oh.
there was nothing interesting about this guy, and I was correct. He is like the most like Eminem and like Royce to 5'9" are like my favorite rappers, and I was like designed in a lab to get signed to Aftermath, right? Like someone whose like ideas of hip hop are totally outdated, whatever. But what I was not prepared for is learning the titles of all of his early mixtapes, and I need to read these for you in order because they are so fucking funny. Okay. So the first
Okay.
John Connor mixtape is called The Calling Part 1, colon the prequel. That was immediately followed by Everyone Hates Connor in 2006. His third mixtape was called The Calling Part 2, The Second Coming. So not The Calling Part 2, the sequel, but he just The Calling Part 2, The Second Coming. Then, crucially, here's where it gets good. The Entourage-inspired John Connor as Vinny Chase Season 1, which was just shortened to Season 1.
Hit the Perry noise! Hit the Perry...
What the fuck? What the fuck?
It's his time!
Oh my God.
He made the theme song, you gotta!
Oh my God.
So he makes not one, and then two John Connor as Vinny Chase Entourage-themed mixtapes, which is essentially like We Have Wale mixtape about nothing at home. And then he proceeds to do a series of mixtapes called Best in the World, and then it's him rapping over different like famous rappers' beats, which starts with Best in the World, the Blue Album, which obviously, Grace is our guest today. The Blue Album has a different connotation to anyone else on planet Earth, but this is an album of him rapping over the Blueprint beats, like blue dip beats from the Blueprint albums. And then he proceeds to do this again with famous Eminem instrumentals. He releases an album in 2014 called The Late Registration of a College Dropout Who Had a Dark Twisted Fantasy of 808.
Oh my God, fuck off.
These scary movie-ass titles, I swear to fucking God.
About to say, fucking Freeburg and Sand, whatever those fuckers are named. Goddamn Vampire
Vampire
Sucks ass
Paranormal Activity.
And the best part about all of this, so like I'm reading all of this, and I quickly realized that the John Connor Wikipedia page is one of the most this guy edited his own Wikipedia pages I've ever read in my entire life, which you can tell definitively because the thing ends with the line, in May 2019, Connor revealed that he was no longer signed to Aftermath and would be releasing new music independently soon. And the citation is a tweet from John Connor Music. So he literally just wrote that sentence.
I just appreciate that you invoked Wale, a guy who I have not thought about in like 5 years minimum. Like
the musical style section of his Wikipedia page is just the line, his gritty lyricism has earned praise from rappers such as Busta Rhymes, The Game, Scarface, Nas, Rick Ross, and fellow Michigan native Big Sean.
Yeah, he wrote that shit.
His gritty lyricism. Yeah, no, like this is the most he wrote that Wikipedia page I've read in a long time. Some of the citations like only cite half of the thing he's saying, so it's like him saying the part of this that's verified by other people can be found here, but this is just me telling you. It's really funny. I highly recommend the Wikipedia page of John Connor. But that was only one of two tangent contexts I have for this. Let's talk about this song for a second.
Yeah, the song itself. What
do we think about the song Genocide?
There's songs that do this kind of like the bass is the beats kind of thing so much better, you know, like this whole thing rides around like having that really like sick like bass lowering sound. It's just like it's not that great here. There's other songs that do it better.
I do really like this beat. I was happy that this is the song we had to talk about today, because this is truly the only thing. I listened to some of this record, and like this and like Deep Water, the song that has Snoop Dogg on it, were like the only ones that like even remotely rang a bell. So it makes sense that this would be like the highlight. And it does sound like, I like it just because it doesn't sound like Dr. Dre going through the motions. Like it is pretty unique. It feels very like numbers on the board, very just like, but then it, in classic Dr. Dre fashion and in classic this album fashion, it's like it's a good idea that then gets extrapolated and goes somewhere else, and it's like, wait, why did we go here? It's like a hat on a hat of a song where there's some really cool ideas, but there's also some stuff that like does not need to be here. I don't know, it's a weird mixed bag of a song even.
Yeah, the song itself, it's fine. I guess the thing is that it's Dr. Dre and really Dr. Dre and his ghostwriters like trying so hard to be in the moment as we are, and because of that, because it's so focused, it's like it's ironic that the song comes out during what is considered to be a golden age of television. It's trying so hard to be like a prestige TV series. This is the Order 1886 of West Coast hip hop.
Oh wow, that's
albums and songs.
That's kind of real.
I know in my heart
TVs.
that they're gonna needle drop this song one day on Billions.
And, oh yeah,
Matty,
this is a billions.
Here's
song.
a better way to put it. Like, this song is to his actual discography what like the Star Wars Disney Plus shows that aren't Andor are to like actual Star Wars. It's just like, here's some content if you like Dr. Dre. This is some Dr. Dre content right here.
Yeah, but
Dr. Dre, the Bad Batch.
But I will say, so re-listening to this album, as I said, it is an album that is desperately trying so hard to exist, and that feeling is like extrapolated because as I'm listening, I'm remembering the album. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I listened to this album at the time, like often enough that like a number of these songs rang a bell. But as soon as the album is done, I don't remember a single thing. This album is essentially like an alternative reality time portal that is briefly opened up. And aside from the people on this album that just already existed before then, only one person escaped out of this album from that alt universe time portal, and that is Anderson .Paak.
It's like you go inside the album and you're a different self that doesn't remember yourself outside the album. Like, you're
100%.
You're just trapped in the box. I agree completely. Because at the time, I for sure was trying to like head nod my way through. This is good, actually. So yeah, I definitely did listen to it just enough for that. But of course, what Matty is referencing is that the thing this album became known for was the album where Anderson .Paak is on it 5 times.
Yes, it's where he breaks out.
And this is where I get to, as I've done a little bit previously, but this is the most definitive James Murphy voice. I was there, folks, because this album was released on August 5th, 2015, and literally that week, Low End Theory Music Festival takes place at the Shrine Amphitheater for the only year I think that it was there. It had so the Low End Theory was a party hosted by Daddy Kev, who now hosts Scenario, which is a weekly event that I go to. Kev is a cool dude, really nice guy. And back in the day, before I knew him, I was like completely obsessed with his night and like all of the LA beat scene stuff that orbited around Low End Theory, like Flying Lotus and Teebs and Shlomo and all that stuff. And the festival was Flying Lotus was performing. I know Earl Sweatshirt was performing. So this was like the Cube era Flying Lotus, but he also like came out and did some Captain Murphy songs just to like put it in time frame. This is like post Doris Earl. There was a whole lot of like really good stuff happening. But my 2 big memories from that weekend were my friend giving us a joint that had, quote, some keef in it, which I learned for the first time means a lot of keef. And second of all, I remember seeing Anderson .Paak play on the side stage. And previously to this weekend, Anderson .Paak was not a name I was very familiar with, even though I had heard a song. Does anyone know Anderson .Paak's previous pseudonym and or...
Yes.
Breezy Lovejoy, PYP. A good song that I actually listened to for the first time this week. It like, if you listen to Breezy Lovejoy, it's like there's an alternate universe where Anderson .Paak is, I don't know how to say this besides Black Anthony Kiedis. Like there's a very Red Hot Chili Pepper vibe to the music video. He's like on a rooftop, like shaking a tambourine, singing, and it's like, yeah, I could see why I liked this at the time. I was there, and I'm going to be honest, like, my reaction to seeing Anderson .Paak the week that Compton came out was, this guy's going to be a big star. I had my full, like Hollywood, like, I felt like I discovered him, because I watched him sing and play the drums and rap at the same time, and I was like, well, that's pretty cool, which it was, and then I didn't know that was going to become his only trick for the next 10 years, and he was going to make, like, mid R&B music, but I was just like,
you're forgetting again. He's very multifaceted, Jack. Literally multifaceted, because obviously we know Anderson .Paak, the artist, and of course, you know, he's one half of Silk Sonic. But most importantly, you may not know this. This is a deep industry secret. He also has a second persona called DJ Pee Wee.
Yes,
this is not we. I refuse to say it without the dot.
This is really the Captain Murphy of our time, so it's kind of rude for Matty to like be breaking the secret for everyone. Everyone had been wondering for months now, who is DJ P.we? Oh,
See,
God.
with the dot, it's better. It's better.
It is funnier with the dot. I mean,
that guy looks an awful lot like Anderson .Paak if he were wearing a funny wig.
Next, you're gonna tell me that Hannah Montana is secretly Miley Stewart.
I mean, basically, this is Anderson .Paak if he was French and / or a member of Khruangbin. He's got the Khruangbin wig
He's got
on.
You're right. He does have the Anthony Kiedis haircut. Maybe he's just living out his dreams of being Anthony Kiedis.
Yeah, as we discussed before the episode, this is a fuck-ass bob if I've ever seen one, for sure.
We weren't even talking about his haircut, though.
We were talking about fuck-ass bobs.
We were talking about Will Toledo. We were talking about Will Toledo's fuck-ass bob.
I just find Anderson .Paak's whole arc supremely interesting because, like, there's like a 5-minute period where he is associated with the Hellfire Club guys, which, for those of you who do not know, is like... fucking Open Mike Eagle, No Can Do, Milo back when he was living in LA, Bus Driver, like all the guys who are like operating out of fucking, I can't remember the area, like Echo Park or whatever. Yeah, but like just, it's a weird crew that he happened to be involved with that just like somehow he managed to escape the orbit of that and is now like...
That's exactly it. Like I was there at the moment that he said, bye LA beat scene guys, I don't want to play with you anymore. I have Dr. Dre's number now. Like I watched that happen in real time.
He didn't fully like, because obviously
not
like this year.
At first. It's a slow like money makes you stupid process that just starts the ball starts rolling at this time. I was all the way in, all the way through Malibu, and especially No Worries.
Malibu's a good record.
No Worries is
Malibu's great.
Which by the way, potential memory hole album of the year candidate. Yeah. No Worries put out an album this year.
It's true. I thought it was fine, but yeah.
Well, the problem is it's his divorce album. Do you really want to hear Anderson .Paak do a divorce album? Like,
which by the way, it is hysterically funny that Yes Lord is now followed up by Why Lord ?
It is very
divorce
funny.
guy energy, you know.
Oh God!
But I gotta be real that like in 2016, Swayed by No Worries was like my favorite song in the entire world. Like I was really really into Anderson .Paak. I don't think that was wrong because he's so talented.
That was
like
great.
It's not that we invested in the wrong talents. It's just that he very quickly revealed that like he doesn't have a lot of interesting things to say with his talents. Like him ending up with Bruno Mars at the time felt like a corruption or like, oh, he's selling out, when the reality is they're the same guy. They're both incredible like Grammy performers that you don't actually really need to be like album artists, right? And like they can make you a good single, but like do they have like a real thing to say over the course of an LP? Not really.
We're just remember we're going to talk about bubbling in the future, so yeah, just yeah.
Well, yeah, we're gonna close the door here. This was the last thing I wanted to talk about. Is this exact moment?
You're gonna close the door. He wants to leave the door open. You're gonna close the door, Jackie.
Well, I just wanted to bring up
I think
Anderson .Paak because I feel like Dre putting him all over this album had this effect of him sort of taking credit then when Anderson .Paak blew up, when the reality is he was just trying to make like every guy that he had a creative like record label relationship with happen at the same time, and like 8 of them do not stick on this record. John Connor, they were trying to make John Connor happen.
The cream rises to the top.
In the exact
the good
same
news
way.
is we're talking about John Connor here in 2024, which I think is more than most people can say on this album.
It's true. He is like what's the fucking guy on Just Dance? I'm so sorry for forgetting your name. What's the guy who's featured on?
Fucking
Colby something.
Colby. Oh my God, it's
Colby O'Donnell.
Colby O'Donnell.
Colby O'Donnell. Colby O'Donnell.
Colby O'Donnell. How could I forget his easy to remember name?
Yeah, what's he now?
Red wine.
I don't know.
Gaga. Colby.
Oh God. I just have to get this dumb joke out of the way because I was gonna say I in the middle of doing my Macho Man impression, I was like, I should have said this instead. So I'm gonna say this just so I have it on record, and I'm like, the P rises to the we. There you go. There's my
It's
joke.
good. Thank you.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's again. The song, the album does not exist. The song does not exist. By the way, actually, one more thing. We need to get on to the next one, but also, what score do you think the Compton by Dr. Dre got? The album
this
itself.
is a good question, actually.
Fuck. You said it got Best New Music, right?
It got Best New Music. So off the top of your head, what score did this album get?
8.4.
8.7.
Okay.
Solid 9. Or no, wait, that's too high. They never give 9. So like maybe like 8.7.
Again, Rose and you guys go. It's 8.8. 8.8 Best New Music. Again, by the way, Pitchfork has barely given out 9 so far in like the last like couple years. The highest score, aside from the Fiona 10, the highest score they've given since that album is like a 9.1. That was Cindy Lee this year.
I just think a lot about how like Puha Patel during her tenure as editor, like one of the first things she talked about on the Pitchfork podcast was like, yeah, I think we want to start giving out more high scores, and then they just never did that, like ever.
Yeah, it's really funny to be like, yeah. Eve Tumor Safe in the Hands of Love is exactly 0.3 better than Dr. Dre Compton.
Wait,
yeah, that's exactly how
I think it is.
This album, did this even end up on their like best of the 2010s list? No, right?
No,
okay,
for sure not.
That's what I thought.
Unquestionably not. I'm surprised.
I'm going to figure this out while we kind of move into the next song.
I'm surprised it didn't end up on their like album rescore article. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, here's the thing, Jackie. It didn't end up there because the album doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
I also think the other thing that we didn't talk about is that like shortly after this, like the cultural conversation around Dr. Dre and the allegations around him, et cetera, like changes. And I think everyone just wanted to forget how much we praised this record. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I checked. It does not exist on here at all.
Well, there you
nope,
go.
not on here at all. That's crazy.
Well, we've made it out of the like time portal section. Let's get to like the normal best new pod section of the podcast.
Yeah, let's talk about.
Of course,
good
we just finished talking
that
about.
We will remember.
Yeah, so we just finished talking about Erykah Badu, Cellular Device, and now we're going to move on to our next song. I'm just going to play it. It's In Time by FKA Twigs.
Hold on. And we have a guest that wants to say something about this song.
Phoebe! Hi, Phoebe!
Phoebe, do you have anything to say about In Time by FKA Twigs, her seminal single from the Melissa EP? No, Phoebe does not have anything to say.
Oh, she's shy.
She's shy.
Look, I'm just going to say it. So a few weeks ago, of course, we talked about a track by Death Grips, Fuck Who's Watching, or which I'd said was my favorite track of the series so far. That changes on this episode. In Time by FK Twigs is the best song that we're talking about this season, and I think my favorite song of the just entire series so far. This is an 11 out of 10, perfect, beyond perfect song. This song is one of the best songs ever made, maybe. It's almost beyond words. It's a song. It's her best project. It's her best project.
One of the best Twigs projects. Like, fucking glass of Patron.
I'm a little on Magdalene, and I think LP1 is really good, but I think this is the best. This is the, for me, like,
guys, you're never gonna believe who's the producer on 4 out of 5 tracks on this EP. You're never gonna believe it. It will never explain why Matty likes this EP so much.
Yeah, it's fucking Boots. Yeah, this is Boots when Boots was a relevant figure, and
not on this song, but everywhere.
Oh, he's on the song? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, he produced every song but this one on the EP, which I find very interesting.
That is
also,
interesting.
As somebody who did not listen to this EP at the time and is only like getting to this one now, I had to like quadruple check because like I was like, is that Charlie XCX? She's doing like the most like Charlie XCX impression I have ever heard.
I was gonna say,
but it's like before Charlie was Charlie.
This is what it, like. This song invented Brat. Like, I've been feeling the same in the club and the rave with these exact vocals.
Yeah, no, I was like, I had to like check every source. I was like, okay, maybe Wikipedia just doesn't include uncredited artists, because I was
You know what it is? This is the only song where you can fully hear how British FKA Twigs is while she's singing, and that's just why it sounds like Charlie.
Yeah, no, that's what got me. It was
kinda.
like remembering, like I forgot she was British, and then like as soon as I'd exhausted all possibility of Charlie, I was like, oh right, she's British.
God. Yeah, this is just a perfect.
Okay.
This is the perfect song. Obviously, in the club and the rave, like that, like oh god, all the the whip pans and the
as somebody who was in the club and the rave last night, I was feeling the same in the club and the rave. I'm not gonna lie, I exactly the same as I am now, which is kind of tired.
I really, really, really love this song as well. I have to think exactly how it stacks up, but Matty and I have held this opinion both for a while, that this is probably the best thing she's ever done front to back. I love Capra songs now, but I will say that even though I love Capra songs as a project, there's nothing on that album that touches this song and Figure 8. Like, those two songs together is just like peak FKA Twigs, in my opinion.
Well, it's funny you should mention Capra songs, because this feels kind of like foreshadowing the shit she was doing on like Oh My Love and like Pomplamoose and stuff. Like,
for sure,
it's her kind of like dancier, poppier shit that's like more based around choruses.
This is before she starts working with chorus, but it sounds a lot like the chorus production on Capra songs and on the new record, like Enter the Dragon, with like all the little like micro detail stuff.
Okay, just quick question. This is not a criticism of any of you, but like I thought it was called Capri Songs because like it sounds sort of like Capri Sun.
No, it's Capri Songs because it's Capricorn, because the whole thing is astrology girly stuff.
Okay, yeah, that tracks.
Way, like in a cool way.
My head, I was like, Capri Sun. Yum.
As I've said before, I am not an astrology girly, but while listening to that album, I become Jhené Aiko. I become like full on like tapestry on the wall.
I'm like, let me get my crystals.
Exactly. But
yeah, no, I feel like this song is also just like gold standard of Twigs doing like weird sexy, which that's like what she's good at.
Yes.
It's
like weird,
futuristic,
sad, sexy.
Yeah, it's futuristic, it's sexy, it's horny, it's melancholic. It is all of these things at once, and it's such a tightrope that she walks on this song. And to see her, it's like it's not that she's just walking on a tightrope; she's on the tightrope with like a fucking unicycle. Like, how the fuck is she pulling this off? It's crazy.
To speak to that like fragile balance of like intimacy and vulnerability, it's like if Bjork Vulnicura took Molly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's that same sort of like crystal and art pop thing, but it's like messy and big and like bacchanalian in a way that album is not. This is truly The Weeknd early mixtapes for girls. Like, that's what this is.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is Glass Table Girls for girls.
Also
boys.
I will say too, listening to this again, of course the thought pops in my mind, and I gotta say it now that it's in my mind. Again, this is very much a boss baby ass tweet thought, but bear with me, listeners. I get Yeezus vibes from this. I get Yeezus vibes very heavily from this. Like, it is
I can see
vision.
that a little, yeah, sure.
I mean, it obviously, obviously FK Twigs. Here's the thing. Obviously, she was working with the same producers as Kanye was. Obviously
true.
Very big with Erykah and a number of people that would, go. Like, I think, I'm not sure if Get Awful Steam at all worked with FK Twigs at this point, but a lot of that same DNA is in FK Twigs music, and this is like. Whereas previous FK Twigs songs, they were very much living more in, like, obviously they were very pop, but they're living more in the art world. This is her kind of finding that that perfect balance of the art and the pop and the R&B and the hip hop, and just being able to, again, it's walking a tightrope in so many different ways, and it's just such an impressive song. And beyond just the craft itself, it's just a song that gets me in my feelings. Like, it's just, yeah, no, like I'm feeling the same in the club and the rave. Like, fuck yeah, of course, duh.
Yeah, the only
It's
reason
just-
why I didn't like the Tears in the Club weekend collab is I'm just like, you've done this better before. I've heard it. I know
it's cynical.
Yeah.
It's a little cynical.
And it's this.
Yeah, it exists. Most importantly, the Tears of the Club. That one is just it feels like a much more cynical ploy at mainstream, which is, look, again, that's fine. It's you want to make a mainstream pop song, you want to try to break through. That's fine, especially because that was that I think that's on Capri Songs.
Yeah.
I say Capri Sun. It's Capra Songs. I'm getting the Capri Sun mixed up.
Capri Sun, yum.
It is very notably, that record is when she is still on Young, but she signs a deal with Atlantic, where she's like both, like, I think it's like Young in the UK and then like Atlantic everywhere else, where it was very much like, hey, let's give a try to the mainstream. Because I think also she was on like a ASAP Rocky song or something, or a Travis Scott song maybe, that, or a Kanye song that popped off. So it's like, hey, let's see, let's make a play at the mainstream and see what happens.
Well,
and nothing really happened, and now she's going back down the weirdo art pop, experimental pop lane, which I think is also cool. So,
well, I also think like Capra Songs, this just popped into my head, where Capra Songs is like, it is kind of the pivot from like Magdalene was a very heavy record and very dark, and Capra Songs is like, okay, like, enough of that. I'm going to take a break from being in my feelings and I'm going to go shake my ass. And all I can think of when I think of those two records is that one screenshot of the two Trisha Paytas videos. And the first one is like, my trip to the psych ward, and the second one is like, how to hit your MG spot.
Oh my
So
God.
that's like Magdalene to Capra Songs.
Just to finish it though, the thing that's great about Capra Songs is it's an entire album of shaking your ass, and then it ends with, last year I wanted to kill myself, but now I'm shaking my ass. Like, that's literally what the lyrics of the last song are. It's so good.
Oh God. But yeah, In Time, perfect. Here's the thing. This episode has, I would say, 3 10 out of 10 songs. This is one of them, and it is my favorite of the series so far. I love this EP. Love this song when it came out. And
my question is, will we have the same 3 10 out of 10s? That's the question.
Probably not, especially because my next 10 out of 10 is our next song. If we're ready to move on to our next song, which is Slumlord by Neon Indian, which again, here's the thing. Of course, like the good boy that I am, I re-listened to a lot of albums that are on the playlist this week, or a lot of songs in the albums, just to give greater context. This album has not aged particularly well. Most of Neon Indian has not aged particularly well. Very much an early 2010s artist, and of course, I love this album when it came out. And yeah, parts of it has not really held up. It's fine, but it's not the potential revolutionary synth pop record that it was. It's a fine synth pop record. That being said, this is a perfect song. This is a 10 out of 10 song.
This is my least favorite song of the week. I'm just gonna say it. I feel like it's synthy in a way that feels distinctly mid to late 2010s that I don't like. Like, to me, this feels too close to like the 1975.
Once it gets cooking, I do know what you mean. I'll just get my 2 cents out of the way. I've always been a Neon Indian skeptic, and I went into this episode being like, I had that opinion a while ago. My tastes have changed a lot. Let me try to really give this an honest shake. And during the intro, I kind of thought maybe I'll be enjoying this, and the intro was like the most engaged I was with the song. Like, once the actual like speed up to the beat happens and you get into the actual song, I'm like, right, I don't really like Neon Indian. Yep. Mm-hmm. And this is more
psychic chasms, but diminishing returns for me.
I have little hits and bits of it, but I just can't hear this song and not hear Toro Imo at home. Like, that's just all my brain can process, and I already have Toro Imo, and he's great.
Every year we have one album that just like inexplicably just goes like absolutely makes people go absolutely berserk on indie heads for no fucking reason. And in 2015, this was the album. I truly just like I felt lost in there during that year. I was just like, why are like this is fine. Why do you guys care so much? Like it's bizarre to me. And like even coming back to it now, I'm just like why did people care this much? It's like fine.
The answer is that it's the same phenomenon that's playing out with like Magdalena Bay right now, where no one should be having this strong of opinions about this music, but because some people really like it and are saying dumb hyperbolic things about it, there's then a lot of other people that are being like reactionary to the reactionary, and then you get this feedback loop of like people straw manning opinions about what other people think about the record. And I agree, this record just should not have been talked about at that much. It's fine, it's not bad. I think this is one of the best songs on the record, and I think this song is okay, is how I feel about it.
It really does have like some of the most 2015 album art I've ever seen.
Oh, it's crazy. I think the album art rules. That's my favorite part of this album.
But very dated.
No, for sure. Yeah.
The music video for this thing is just like barely anything. It's really just going for like I don't know. We projected some like cool colors on here. It's like a vibe, isn't it?
By the way,
like,
speaking about dated album, whatever, I didn't mention earlier, but the Hotline Bling font on the like single artwork makes me want to like claw my fucking eyes out. I hate it so much. I can't stand it. Sorry.
I mean, when I look at the Hotline Bling, single art, I obviously think of our good friend Brandon Wardell. I immediately think of Brandon Wardell because that was his whole aesthetic for a few years there.
It's millennial pink. It's bad. It's bad.
I think the thing that specifically pisses me off about this is like fake Obi strip. Like I don't like when Western artists do fake Obi strip. It's tacky.
Yeah.
I also think if you want to listen to this exact album, have you ever heard of Ford and Lopatin, the Daniel Lopatin, Joel Ford collab project that is this but so much better? Like, both in the moment and then later, once I had a wider taste range, I had alternatives to this record that were better, in my opinion. Like, at the time, I was more into Toro, and now I'm more into, like, a Ford and Lopatin type thing, and in both cases, like, this was just... I never understood this as being like that special, you know?
Why is this album nearly an hour? That's absolutely...
It's a double album. It's a double album. Apparently, it's supposed to be a double album. Alan Palamo. He was in the sauce, and he was like, I want to make a double album because the story of this record is that there was supposed to be a Neon Indian album in 2013. But he got his laptop stolen, and so the album got stolen and just never, was never able to recover the files for it. And so he just was like, all right, I'm just start on a different record and kind of, it's very similar to like the Green Day album that never was, the one before American Idiot, where they worked on an album, masters got stolen. They're like, well, we didn't really like what we were doing on that anyway, so let's just scrap it and we'll just do something new and ambitious instead. And They Get a National Night School is the American Idiot of its time in that very specific window. As I said,
you gave me another good comparison for this, which is I hadn't thought of until you said that, but this is kind of what if Jai Paul sucked, you know?
Yeah.
Again, here's the thing: you are all saying things that I can't make an argument against. I can't be like, you're wrong, but because it's just like I generally agree. I think Neon Indian is kind of a hack. I think that was proven to me with the solo album that he dropped last year, the Alan Palamo record that came out last year, because he dropped the Neon Indian name because of Woke. He went under his own name. I thought that record was bad. I thought like, oh wow, was this guy actually a hack? And upon re-listening to Big International Night School, low key kind of a hack, but it's a fine record.
You know what
it's
this
a
is,
fine
Matty?
record.
I figured it out. This is your Jamie XX. This guy.
I just really hate. I really hate that he, on the Wikipedia page for his follow-up album, he described Leonard Cohen as Zaddy. Absolutely not. Get out of here.
Oh, God.
Get out of here.
It's important to remember that he is like not like fully, but he's kind of ingrained himself into the Dime Square adjacent crowd.
Well, he had Mac DeMarco on his record, so that really tells you all about his judgments.
Well, he also When you said Jamie XX, I immediately was like, oh, this is what, because I'm a famous Jamie XX hater and VXX hater, and I think that one XX album that everyone loves is like fucking loading YouTube Premiere music. But I think it's so fucking overrated. But I think I'm like, this is just like, Neon Indian is a vibes musician and not a songs musician.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only be carried so far by vibes alone.
I agree with that for the most part. I also think, as someone who loves vibes musicians and someone who does love that XX record, I think that I got vibes. You know, like I am not anti-chillwave. In fact, it breaks my heart to be breaking the ranks with Michael Brooks on this issue. But this is not my chillwave. Hashtag not my chillwave. You know, like this is. I would rather either be listening to Todd Terja, or I'd rather be listening to Passion Pit, or there's like so many different like things that are close to this in my world that I get different things out of, and this kind of hits all of those boxes, but also kind of hits none of them, if that makes sense.
Well, it's like music you listen to while you're like smoking weed with a guy who has a Magic Eye poster.
Yes, for sure. And usually that's my favorite kind of music, but in this case, it didn't work out. It's kind of similar to the Animal Collective thing. It's like it's so close to things I love, but isn't.
I feel that way about another artist on this list.
Look, words are just not going to be enough to defend this song. I can't speak to any of you about why. You just gotta look. You just gotta watch. So, listeners, I'm not gonna make you listen to Slumlord again, but I am gonna make my co-host here for as long as until everybody taps out. This is a video that I made in 2015. No. In 2015, if you are an OG Indie Heads podcast cast member, and even a podcast head,
I remember you being into this record.
This video.
I have not seen this video. I remember you being into this record, but
I have no idea what I'm about to watch, and I'm scared.
So I was hanging out at my aunt's house, and I was very, very inspired, and I'm going to look away from the computer now, and you have to give me an audio cue on when to turn this off.
Tap out.
Because I can't watch this. This is. Here's the thing, listeners. I've been editing the podcast for many years now, so I have exposure therapy when it comes to my own voice. But when it comes to watching myself, no, horrible. The reason why the low effort album reviews are so short is that's about as long as I can manage of watching myself.
Are we watching the music video for Something Soon by Car Seat Headrest, the original version?
Again.
Oh god. Okay.
I should have stayed out of the room. I physically left the space.
Okay, so listeners, I will post this full video in the Discord chat. So if you want to see a video of young 2015 me dancing to Slumlord by Neon Indian, I will post that in the
Matty,
chat.
Why does your aunt's house look like Big Quint's bedroom? Is my first question that I had watching that.
She was married to a hunter at the time, a very big hunter. So,
oh my god, that was emotionally overwhelming. Baby Matty, wow, what a time, what an era.
I was skinny. Again, when you talk about twink death, you're talking about me.
I'm beside himself. Jesus is beside himself. Many people are saying such things.
All right, let's forget that ever happened. Let's move on to our next song, which comes to us from the one and only Dan Behar, back on the series with his Destroyer project. It's Times Square from Destroyer. And
if they made this today, they would have to call it Times Square. I
wasn't going to say that, but now that you say that, if they made this song today, they would have to call it Times Square. That being said, this is a case of I do like the song a lot, but it does feel like this is not the song I would have given Best New Track to. Maybe they gave it to a different one, and we just decided to go with this one instead. I would have picked something else off this record, personally speaking. But still, very good song. Very good song. Very good record. Record is kind of great.
This is my favorite Destroyer record. Like
that's fair.
I think it's his best work.
So I've listened to Destroyer, but he's never been like my guy. And for whatever reason, I do not think I've ever listened to this record, and I genuinely, like, I don't have evidence of this. I genuinely think it's the album cover, because this album cover gives "This Is My Boring One," and then I turned this song on for the first time, and I'm like, this isn't your boring one. What the fuck is going on here? Like, this is so...
Well, that's the thing. He doesn't have a boring one. Like, Dan Behar is frustratingly consistent. He is one of those guys where you're just like, well, surely he's gonna churn out a bad one of these days, and then he doesn't. He just keeps doing it. And this fucking song, oh my god, I remember being there for it, and like even then, I was just like, this is a good fucking chorus. Like, the thing about this song is like everyone does little impressions of him going Times Square, but like no Dan Behar impression can ever be like slightly off key as he is when he sings it, and it's so beautiful. I love his voice. It's perfect with this. It's ragged and silly, and he's just having a fun time. Like, this is Dan Behar having fun, and it's
It is. I mean, I not that I've ever disliked him even. It's just that he's been someone that I've always sort of appreciated at a distance, and had a lot of friends that were like more into him than I am. And like, I've listened to the Kaput episode. I've listened to Jeremiah cook on this man. Like, I do know what the deal is, but in a way that I've only ever been able to access from the outside with someone like Father John Misty. This song destroyed me today. Like, this might be my best song of the week. I was not prepared for how much I would like this song.
It's top 3 for me.
It's probably the one for me as well.
That's
like,
why I'm shocked. I mean, maybe I just need to listen to this whole record and like really sit with it. But like, if this isn't the song they should have picked from this record, how good is this record? Is my question. Because like, I think this song is cooking on. I love so many of these lyrics, like the lyric artists and repertoire hand in hand through the great doorway at dawn is just a great, like, Father John Misty wishes he had lines like that. That's the thing.
Oh, guess what? They're going on tour together next year.
Good.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, shit. I actually had to travel up for one of those shows.
But
I actually had to travel up for one of those shows.
We were talking about LA earlier this episode. This is a song about New York, but I'm going to find a way to make it about LA. God damn it. And the thing that this chorus articulates that I think is so beautiful, like the line, you can follow a rose wherever it goes, yeah, you can fall in love with Times Square, is like an artistic idea that I am personally deeply obsessed with as someone that grew up in a fake place and fell in love with a real romantic thing from a fake facsimile of that thing. Like, I can you tell I watched Mulholland Drive this week? Like, basically, the idea of like, yes, this thing is bullshit, but like, if you can find a romantic way to look at it, it can be beautiful, you know? And that's really great.
Yeah, like the line, the writing on the wall wasn't writing at all. Just forces of nature in love with a radio station just kind of sums it all up right there. Just like you're hearing the projection of the thing, and you're still like, this is fucking beautiful.
Yeah, Plato the Cave ass.
To Jackie's point, this came out like I famously grew up in New York, and this came out around the same time that my high school moved locations, and I was only in the new location for my senior year. And when it moved to a different building, I was going to school in Hell's Kitchen and had to walk through Times Square every day to get to school. And I remember like afternoons where I was walking like back to the train station through Times Square listening to this and being like very much like, this sucks, I can't wait to get out of high school, out of the city, whatever, I fucking hate Times Square like every other New Yorker hates Times Square. But at the same time being like, it's kind of cool that I feel this way and that I feel disconnected from everything.
That's my whole deal with Shlomo. It's the idea of walking down Hollywood Boulevard and being like, this sucks, but it's this sucks, and you don't get to say this sucks.
Yes. Also, I don't know,
I believe we call that the New Jersey mindset.
True. Yes.
He's kind of also doing the like Steely Dan thing that I really like especially when the horns come in and shit. Like, it's so fucking smooth and jazzy. I feel like a Cabernet just appears in my hand when I listen to it. Also, when they decide to make a Dan Behar biopic, Jason Mantzoukas has the role of a lifetime waiting for him.
I can't remember
It's
who
too
played
obvious.
him in the fucking music video for Moves by the New Pornographers, because that's hang on, let me look this up, because there was someone who played him in there that like got it pretty accurately.
I really would love to talk about the third verse and about Judy being beside herself, but I'm not going to talk about Judy. In fact, we're not going to talk about Judy at all. We can't talk about Judy. We can't.
This bitch just watched Twin Peaks for the first
did.
time. If
It's
you can't
true.
tell.
It's true. I'm boss babying left and right. You can't stop me. Every day of my life, I'm just like, that reminds. And God damn it, it's gonna come up again later this episode. But,
there's literally a song where it has to come up. That being said, I do think this is a great song. I love it a lot. That being said, I did go through, the Google sheet that Rose made of all the best new tracks, and I got a bone to pick because I think I remember now. I was fighting for Dream Lover over Times Square, and Times Square ended up being the one that I don't know how Times Square won out over
because
Dream Lover.
It's the one we all love and remember. I'm telling you, like
good.
everybody is really in on Times
Matty.
Square.
Dream Lover has that fucking crazy sax intro in the beginning. It's so fucking, and this song is great. It is a great like Paul Simon meets Steely Dan fucking Baroque pop song. It's amazing. That being said, I love this song. That again, I'm not trying to put two bad bitches up against each other. Again, there could be two pretty best friends. That's what I'm saying. But Dream Lover, that's the one for me. If I gotta pick
That's
one,
fair.
gun to my head, I gotta go with Dream Lover.
Speak
The
your
entire
piece.
album is great. Of course, this is the first Destroyer album that I heard. Because at the time in the OG Indie Heads podcast days, of course, the coalition of Jeremiah, Alex, and AJ Moser and a number of other folks were very into this record. So much to the point that I'm like, who is Destroyer? Why are we recording an episode about this album? Okay, majority rules, so I guess we'll do this. And so, at the time I was like, why are we talking about this album? Whereas now I'm like, Matty, you fucking idiot. They were right. They were so fucking right, you dumbass. This is a great record. The fuck are you on?
I mean, that's the magic of Dan Behars. One of these days,
really
you just gotta admit, he fucking rules.
You know why this is the
get
perfect... This is the perfect song to write about Times Square specifically, because the thought I kept having while listening to this is that, this is like if the SNL band Slade... You know what I mean? Like, I when the saxophone is blaring, I'm loving it, but I can also hear musical guests, Drake or whatever.
Oh God, great song, great record. Poison Season.
Best Dan Behar.
I will say so. Upon, of course, I listened to the album and doing research, I was shocked that this did not get best new music when it came out. In fact, it was nowhere near. It wasn't even like an 8.0. Like, okay, we didn't quite get there, but maybe if the tides turn, this got a 7.6, which is, mind you, a relatively high score in today's Pitchfork. But coming from Kaput, which was an 8.8, 8.9, to this being a 7.6, it's very bizarre, and I think for them. At the time, this probably felt like a letdown coming after Kaput, but obviously as time has gone on, it's like, no, this record was actually a pretty perfect follow-up to Kaput, and this getting a lower score than Ken and Have We Met just feels a little strange.
I think
it's
easily explained by what Rose was talking about earlier. It's like when an artist is so consistent, it's actually easier for people to be fickle on them because it's just so easy to take them for granted. You know what I mean? After Kaput, there's a way to receive this record as, oh, he's just doing the Destroyer thing again. Whereas that's just because you've become desensitized to it, as opposed to on Kaput where it's like, wow, he's doing the Destroyer thing. And so the post-Ken best new musics feel like them being like, we didn't really appreciate this guy while he was cooking.
To be fair, on those two particular albums, I think he is stepping outside of himself so far that you kind of do have to go wow, okay.
I think that's more true for Labyrinthitis. That record did feel like something new from him.
Yeah, Labyrinthitis is fully out there, but I maintain that Have We Met has moments where I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? The television music supervisor is one of the most bonkers songs he's ever made. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. But again, a great record, great song.
Let's
keep it moving. Great guy. So, of course, I mentioned that I had 3 10 out of 10s on this episode for me. Number 1 was In Time by FK Twigs. Number 2 was Slumlord by Neon Indian. And number 3 is Sea Calls Me Home by Julia Holter. Off the record,
Wow.
Have You in My Wilderness.
I went 1
this
for
is a
3 on songs that I thought you were gonna.
Yeah, there was
Same.
another one that I was really expecting. I'm
Although
gonna
I
be
should,
honest.
I listened to this whole song being like, oh yeah, Matty fucking loved this record. I remember Me Hive at the time. I was there with you. I mean,
Yeah.
and I like that record, or I should say, I liked that record. Oh, we're talking about Julia Holter right now, not.
Yeah.
I'm getting mixed up.
Yeah, we're talking about Julia Holter.
Same with this. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't like this.
I
Today?
really like this one, but like the thing that struck me immediately, like I hadn't heard this before. This sounds like a song that like 20 people have sampled already, and yet nobody has done it. I was like, what? Like
Was
this?
it like a movie or something?
I don't know.
It feels like
I
it
can
was.
check.
It definitely has like sort of a indie movie soundtrack feeling to it, but I think it's just because it's a pretty cinematic song and it's excellent and it's a 10 out of 10. And this record has held up tremendously. I re-listened this week and I'm like, damn, this is a record that like I've always like, oh, I really like that record, and I always just forget like, oh, no, like this album is like, you already think this album is really good. It's better than you think. It's even better than you think. Just a really excellent Baroque pop record, because this is Julia Holter like fully coming out as more of a pop artist rather than like more abandoning sort of the droney orchestral, like just like, I'm just gonna make a pop record. I'm gonna make a record that is just full of great pop songs, and then by the time this album comes out, she kind of goes back more into the experimental droney ambient kind of lane. Like the next, like her follow-up to
Aviary is
this
like
album,
fully off in the deep end of her.
oh yeah. It's like, all right, I gave you all the pop record, I'm gonna go off the deep end now. And of course, Julia Holter put out a record this year that unfortunately I was not a big fan of. I did not really like the new Julia Holter record. Something in the room she moves
She
just
did the soundtrack for Never
claimed.
Really, Sometimes Always?
Yes. And she also did another movie soundtrack, Rose, and that is the forgotten Miles Teller movie, Bleed for This. She did the soundtrack
I've never
for
heard of
that
this in my
movie.
life.
She's just on it, Matty. She has like a couple of songs on it. It's not entirely. It's mostly.
Well, she
her.
did the original score. She did
Yeah.
the original score.
That's true.
And then, but yeah, still did the score for that. But yeah, this is again.
I really like this record, and I do think it holds up on the whole. And I'm pro Julia Holter, but for whatever reason, this just gave me the ick today. Like I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this was never my song from this record. Like I would take How Long or Night Song over this for sure. Night Song especially was like I kind of like her when she's in like a more mournful, slow, droney mode, whereas the like Baroque, and also I remember a while ago Eric Bennett was talking about something and talked about how when they hear something described as jaunty, they're usually going to like it, and I have the exact opposite feeling, where it's not that I cannot like jaunty music. I like Fiona Apple, for example, but that's like my exception, and generally like that's not my business. And this is super like it's undeniably beautiful, but I feel nothing while listening to this is kind of where I'm at. It's a little too ornate in a way that leaves me at a distance, which will come up later.
I do get it, because it is like, it's not going to be my pick for the most 2015 ass song, but it is kind of a 2015 ass song. It's definitely like, I hear this and I am immediately transported back to 2015. Like it doesn't quite, it has like the appearance of a timeless song, but it is very much of the time and of the era. So I do get it in that way. And again, it's not even my favorite Julia Holter song. I think like Horn Surrounding Me and He's Running Through My Eyes, like those are two of my favorite Julia Holter songs. But I think Having My Wilderness is just such a consistently strong record that even if it is her most like poppy record, you still got some stuff on there that gets a little experimental with it. You get freaking Vasquez. Like that's a pretty
I was
like
about to say,
out there
yeah,
song on this album.
I am 0% surprised that you are going to bat for this record, because when I pulled it up on Wikipedia earlier today, Holter cites Scott Walker's song Duchess as a key influence on the album.
Well, there you go.
There you go. This is right up. This is literally Matty chord to a T.
Again, the Scott Walker influence, it's a 50-50, because there's sometimes when an artist pulls that out as an influence, and I'm like, nope, didn't work for me. But sometimes it does work.
I think the key is that she's citing a song from Scott 4 as opposed to like the super avant-garde, like bish bosh people that are.
Well, it's not even the avant-garde. I think like some people, even they'll still cite like this Scott stuff, but saying Duchess, that's a pretty like that's a deep cut. That's a pretty solid cut. Whereas like being like, oh, this is an album that's inspired by It's Raining Today from Scott 3, like that's a pretty seminal Scott Walker song at this point.
So you're saying that She Knows Ball. You were confirmed.
She Knows Ball. And Julia Holter has always known Ball. She's always known Ball. Even when I don't really like her music, which has been the album that came out this year, I'm like, I didn't like it, but like at the end of the day, Julia Holter, a perennial Ball knower, you know? And also very similar to one of our Indie Heads podcast faves, the recipient of our Album of the Year award in 2022, I believe. Again, two wonderful musicians that have gone gray very early and rock it like nobody's business.
This is true. This is very true. I will also say that for a long time, I struggled to fully, even though I like all three of their music and they don't make the same music, like Julia Holter, Juliana Barwick, and Julie Byrne just like rotate in my mind around each other. And I have to remind who did what, you know. I have to like do a mnemonic device or whatever. Like if the Julia is Holter, I haven't perfected it yet.
I
but
like the same thing with Julia Holter, Julia Jacqueline, and Jessica Pratt.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I can see that too.
Women be having names that start with J? I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't know anything about that, but
women be J and
what was that voice?
That was you trying to do my Hannibal Buress. Women be shopping.
I have a point later that will
finally
bring
this
back
podcast
to this,
can get canceled the right way.
We can move on from women and what. Actually, no, we're not moving on from women. We're continuing to talk about women. Let's talk about Empress.
Another woman.
Oh yeah, let's please talk about this song, which is like almost the best song of the week. This is oh my god, this is still her best song in my opinion. That this beat is just like so sick nasty with it that I cannot help but be like, yes.
We're talking about people that we get mixed up based solely on the names. I get Empress of and Emperor X mixed up, which makes no fucking sense sonically.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Emperor X is like a
two
fucking
complete opposites.
Yeah, not the same. But that's all to say, Empress of is not someone that I find myself like listening to her records very often. But I was thinking this while listening to this song. I was like, oh yeah, like I am glad that I was reminded of this. I'm glad that I have been like made aware of it again after not thinking about it for a very long time.
Yeah, I think her place in the kind of ecosystem of music is like she is like, you know, a very like she's kind of the third string of indie pop star where like you're like, yeah, she has some really good songs, but you're never like, oh, this is an iconic record that we're all going to be talking about forever. Like
she's Lord for people who write for Pitchfork is kind of how I feel.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm very curious about one particular detail of her new album, which is apparently it's about her relationship with a guy who was doing an Oscars for Your Consideration campaign, and he broke up with her because of that. I need to know, what director was this?
This is a great question.
I really want to know this too.
Yeah.
I wish I knew.
My bet is on the I can't remember who it was. Oh my god.
By the way, while we're mentioning that very briefly, one of the best album covers of this year is the For Your Consideration album art.
Yeah, that's a
where
good
she's
art.
on the fucking star flying over Los Angeles. It's so great.
It's very campy and tacky, but in the best way possible, and also pretty good record. It's a.
I need to give it another.
I would say it's. it's I don't like it as much as obviously I don't like it as much as this record they're listening to, me and I'm Your Empress of, but it's definitely better than us.
Yeah, listeners,
most albums are better than us.
If you've opened up the new Empress of album and saw Rina Sawayama and Muna were the features, hold your misogyny for just a second. It's actually good. Don't worry. It's actually good.
But she can slay, okay?
Hey,
she can slay a
actually
little.
slays.
If you are brave, you can slay. Streets are saying.
So can we talk about this record just real quickly? That we're,
yes. This record is good.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
So
great record.
I 2 songs in a row. I don't like this one. I really struggled with it, but the thing I will say to make Matty not mad at me is that I went back to the whole record, and the record is good. The album is really good.
Because I think I was this is a case of they picked the wrong one. I like this song, but like I was going through being like, okay, was this the one that we ended up landing on? Like, did they not give like best new track to like Water or How Do You Do It?
Those were exactly the two I was gonna say. They
reviewed Water but did not give it best new track, which is fucking insane because Water is so fucking good. What the fuck is wrong with you, Pitchfork?
I think it makes sense in that this is the most 2015 of the songs on this record, so I guess if you're trying to be like, this is the most of the moment, whereas the rest of the stuff is like a little more offbeat in ways that are good and future forward and interesting, you know? I agree that either of those other songs should have been the pick, but I have fond feelings about this record because to be cordy, this is like the first Matty core album in my life. Like, this is the first album that I'm like that my primary relationship with it is Matty really likes it and he's talked to me about it several times. And
correct.
I was worried going back to this, especially hearing the song. I was very worried that it was going to be the first Matty core album in the Matty, what the fuck are you smoking way. But this is where we handshake meme in the middle.
Yes.
I maintain Empress of has been, is pretty darn good. I love all the Jimmy Stacks production on the next 2 records. Empress of is cool. This album is good.
Yes. Again, I think it's at the time I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is the best pop album of the 2010s. I'm definitely not saying that at this point, but it's a great pop record, and again has a number of excellent songs.
Matty, it's the best album of the pop album of the 2010s if you're just trying to make sure that you don't fit in.
You're not like other girls.
Yeah. I'm not like other boys. That's more because that was me. I'm not like other boys.
Matty was exactly that. You were like, I'm not like other boys. I don't like Young Thug.
I like him for himself instead. But yeah, I that being said, is this a lesser song on the album? Yes, but it's still a pretty excellent song. I like the sort of the icy block percussion hits that are all throughout this thing. Like it's a again, I like the
the production's cool. I just thought
line.
The vocal got like stale. I think it's a little too long.
It's a little bit of a gimmicky vocal. It's like, okay, let me just show off my voice. Let me kind of just show off this like melody when it's like it's getting in the way of the song, whereas like on other tracks on this album where again it is an idea and does not let the idea get in the way of the song.
True, yeah.
It builds a good song around the idea, and this is where it's like, okay, we're getting to the point where like, okay, the idea is taking over from the song, but it just threads that needle just well enough. But again, I think it's good. I'm very happy that Rose, you really like the song, obviously, as someone that was in the Empress of Stan trenches for a brief period of time. But yeah, good record. I will say one of the most shocking Best New Musics this year was For Your Consideration. To go back to that record, I was very surprised when this got Best New Music in a good way. I was like, oh shit, like, all right, they like her again. Although, will it make the year-end list? I think it's going to be one of the Best New Musics that do not make the year-end list. It's going to get the Ice Age Award for this year, I feel like,
I have a feeling that the turnover of staff probably is not going to help its case. Because this was an earlier release.
It did. Well, here's the... when, well, of course, a big thing that I've been rallying about for the last few weeks since I found out about this was Pitchfork only giving 9 Best New Tracks this year. I was like, okay, there's a big gap in March and June. Like, okay, that's probably when the layoffs happened, right? No, the layoffs happened in like January. Like, it was at the beginning of the year. So like, but the moniker has not come in just yet. I think it was the transitionary period where they were trying to figure it out. So again, we'll see. We'll see. I think again, for your consideration,
they're being way less stingy with best new album, but best new track remains on the shelf for the most part.
Which is bizarre. Which I think that obviously the big reason is, again, this is maybe a discussion for a later episode. It's just they've focused way more on Pitchfork selects the playlist, when I think it's like, I get it, but also I'm like, you guys could like actually write about these songs and like talk about them
it's
instead
like,
of just being like,
who
we
the
like
fuck
it, but
wants
on
a playlist at this point. From I don't.
Okay,
maybe they know something I don't.
Yeah. It's just like, because I look at the Stereogum track section in comparison, I'm just like, you guys could just be doing what they're doing. Like, it's so easy. But I digress. Good song, good artist, good record. Let's go ahead and move into our next song, which again, Jackie picked a really good time to watch all of Twin Peaks before we talked about this song.
Not only that, I had never heard this song before I watched Twin Peaks, so I got to experience it completely fresh when I watched that episode.
Mm-hmm. And again, it is actually unbelievable that the song came out before Twin Peaks: The Return, and that of course is Shadow by Chromatics, which is an absolutely excellent bar burner song that pretty much is only as good as it is because I immediately think about Twin Peaks: The Return, and a smile dashes across my face, and I think about all the happy memories of Mr. C, of Dougie Jones, of Hawk and Bobby and James, and all my favorite characters, all 25 years later. I remember, of course, this is a take a shot. It's not Time in the Shadows, so you're gonna take a shot, but not for that. Obviously, I'm a big Red Letter Media fan, and I think their video about Twin Peaks: The Return is excellent. And Jay made a really great point about this song being played in the episode of, when this song hits, it's just like hey, everything's gonna be all right. Like, hey, you're in good hands, at least in terms of the quality of the series, right? It's like, hey, you're in good hands. Like, this is still Twin Peaks.
Sorry, while we're on this, I was reading the final dossier earlier today on my commute home from New York, and let me tell you, I just really can't get over how Mark Frost decided he really needed to make sure that Donald Trump went to the Black Lodge once. He was wearing the fucking black, like, literally, canonically in this book, he mentioned that Donald Trump was wearing the Black Lodge ring, and I just think about that all day today. Like,
they told me not to take the ring. And I was like, oh, it's such a beautiful ring. I gotta take that ring.
I went to this room, and there was a little guy dancing in there. I liked his moves. I went and I took those, and I did it on SNL with the Hotline Bling.
They say this guy's
there was a little guy. He was doing a little dance.
But he's a brain on a tree. How is he the arm if he's a brain on a tree? It doesn't make any sense. I started doing Jerry Seinfeld immediately.
I'm telling you that the Donald Trump Hotline Bling dance moves are like near identical.
We didn't even talk about that. Oh my god.
It's gonna be the episode art. So our listeners will see it.
I'm telling you, those moves are like near identical to the dance moves happening in the Red Room. He's got the same 100%. Energy.
He does the only one dance move he has, which is the push-pull thing that he does for the YMCA.
Sorry, Jackie, the only what he has?
Dance move. Oh, he does his dance. The only one dance that he has.
He's got a one dance.
He has a one dance.
I'm getting word that a one dance has been requested. The UN has sanctioned break.
Even they tell me I need a 2 dance, maybe even a 3 dance. But I told those doctors I just need a 1 dance. I just do the 1 dance, and the crowd loves it. They love it.
So
Shadow by Chromatics, by the way, it's fine. The song is perfectly fine. I have nothing to say about this. Home.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's also good. Just like last week, I'm like, what's wrong with Beach House being at home? I like Beach House at home. Maybe I am just in the Twin Peaks afterglow. I thought this is great, like out of context. And I think the thing is that Johnny Jewel and Chromatics, like, I realized recently that I didn't have a Chromatics or Crystal Castles phase because I'm just like a little bit younger, when they like were at their peak of relevancy. But because I didn't get into them, I instead got into like their after waves, And so now years later, I'm like, it's weird that like my favorite kind of music in the world is stuff that sounds like Crystal Castles, even though I never really was into Crystal Castles that much at the time. And it's like the same thing with Chromatics, where it's like I knew about Chromatics at the time, but because I wasn't watching Twin Peaks The Return, because when they came back it didn't really mean anything to me personally, I was just like too busy doing other stuff. Whereas now, coming back to this song that I had never heard besides seeing it in one Twin Peaks episode, I was like, oh, this is so me. It's like comical, you know? And yeah, it's very beach housey, but and what about it is my response to that, essentially. Like, I think it works.
Yeah.
Do you think Johnny Jewel actually destroyed 15,000 CDs?
I 100% believe that he did that. Yes.
No, he did not. So, okay, let's get into the Dear Tommy of it all. Of course, I mentioned that along with Detox with Dr. Dre, the indie equivalent of that is probably going to be Dear Tommy by Chromatics. Which, here's the thing: did Dear Tommy exist? Yes, it did exist as an album at one point. But there is a great Pitchfork investigation into did he actually destroy all those albums? And the article comes up with, no, he probably did not. It's a good investigative piece that not only obviously answers that question of like, hey, did he actually destroy those records? But also kind of gets at, hey, this Johnny Jewel guy, he's not like a creep or anything, but he is like, oh yeah, he's a bad boss, a bad person to be in a band with. He's a weird control freak that wants to take all your money and be a weirdo. But sometimes you hear the results and you're like, I get it. You know, I don't like the process that got us here, but
by the way, Matty,
the results
you're
speak for
forgetting
themselves.
the key detail, which I don't know if the piece you were talking about negates this. I know there's the destroying every copy thing, but supposedly the reason why he decided to scrap the record and or if he did actually destroy the copies was that he had a near-death experience, almost drowning in Hawaii, and that made him rethink whether he wanted to release the record, which is just some classic musician shit.
Oh, that's yeah. And the funny thing is that like in the piece where they were like trying to figure out that claim, they're like, that actually probably happened. He probably actually did almost drown in Hawaii. Like that actually does seem to be like, it's like, yeah, he was in Hawaii when that happened. So like, it's entirely possible. And there was a drowning that day. Like, hey, that part's probably true. Drowning part is true. But the actually destroying of the records, that is disputed. Although again, it does make for a hell of a legend. It does make for a hell of a story of like, hey, I destroyed 15,000
it very much
vinyl and CD
fits
copies.
With the time of like they were talking in the 60 songs that explain the 90s 2000s episode of MGMT. They talked about the time that the Beach Fossils bassist threw his bass into the East River at the end of a performance.
Oh yeah.
and that and the destroys all the copies of Dear Tommy feel like linked in my brain. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense to me, of like kind of scene, like bands that were very big in the scene at the time, kind of trying to make legends of themselves.
The other thing I always forget about Johnny Jewel, probably his biggest cultural influence for good or ill, is the Drive soundtrack. I always forget that's him. But like,
oh yeah, that's right.
It sort of seems like they hired someone that was like a Johnny Jewel alike, but it was actually just Johnny Jewel, you know?
Yeah, because I know he did the soundtrack for the Ryan Gosling movie Lost River. I didn't realize that he actually did the Drive soundtrack itself. So damn, that's crazy.
And a Chromatic song appears in the movie, along with like the whatever, the Kavinsky Night Call and all the other stuff. Like, this is the era of synthwave. Like we talked about Neon Indian earlier. Oh, yeah. Like this is the moment for it.
Oh, 100%. And it is funny. So of course they did not. So Dear Tommy never came out. It still is unreleased as we speak. But they did. So that was supposed to be their 6th album. They did drop their 7th album, which was Closer to Grey in 2019.
Oh wait, hold on. I gotta fact check myself real quick. He hired Johnny Jewel to score the film, and apparently his music is used in the score. But at the last minute, the studio hired Cliff Martinez to sort of redo a bunch of songs for it. So I guess the Johnny Jewel music is not actually in the movie.
Okay, so it's like a Island of Dr. Moreau kind of situation.
Yeah,
they kind of replace it. Okay, I see. Again, but that makes sense that he was that like at the end of the day, like he was initially involved and obviously made enough of an impact with Gosling to be like, hey, I want you to score my movie when it comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that being said, like the song itself, it is really hard though to like you do want to try to separate it and just think of it as a song on its own. But like the first time I heard this song was in Twin Peaks: The Return when I was watching it live, and it's really hard to extrapolate that. It's damn near impossible. But that's not a bad thing because it makes me think of the song like way more fondly and be like, damn.
I also think that
heater.
Obviously, yes, we're projecting Twin Peaks onto this song, but like the lyrics of the song are the fucking third verse of this song. It's like, gee, I wonder why David Lynch likes this song. At night, I'm driving in your car, pretending that we'll leave this town. We were watching all the streetlights fade, and now you're just a stranger's dream. Gee, I wonder what he likes about this. I took your picture from the frame. Come on. Come on. It was bait.
Yeah.
It was bait for him and he took it.
Yeah. And good on him for taking it. But yeah, Grace, did you have any thoughts on the song?
Beyond we have Beach House at Home, not really. It's pretty, but I don't get much else out of it.
That's fine.
Well, there we go.
That's fair, honestly.
Yeah, then I guess we'll go ahead and move on to our next song, which is about 15 million years long. It is Diamonds Dancing. It is Diamonds Dancing by Drake and Future from the collab record What a Time to Be Alive.
Now, the outro of the song is as long as the entire rest of the playlist.
It is truly crazy how long it goes on, especially outside of the context of the record. Like it's really wild.
It's like it did you know how in the Dread soundtrack, like one of the tricks they did was they slowed down a Justin Bieber song by like 800 times.
Yeah.
This song feels like that, but like
or like
derogatory.
In Inception, how the Inception score is the song from The Kick, like slowed down levels and levels and levels. Yeah, it's that.
Mm-hmm.
This is torturous. This is oh my god.
Yeah. Okay, so here's this song is good. We should start there. We should start there. This song is good.
I don't blame you. I think the song is good until the last minute or so.
I don't think it is bad. I think this song is good. I think
this is what I'm saying earlier.
If it was like 2 minutes shorter.
I don't get how you all can defend this one.
I'm not going to dispute
like
that.
I sit there and I'm like, okay, you got anything else? No?
So
cool.
The thing is crucial
how much time do we have
this
left?
song is that later on this record, there's a song called Jersey that's the solo Future song that this song is like almost a remix of that song. Like, and there's a more than any other song on this record, you can really hear this being a Future song that Drake just sort of inserts himself into like a third wheel. So all of those caveats on the table, along with the caveat that yes, the Drake outro goes on so long that it feels like a comedic bit. It feels like the opening of Twin Peaks season 2, not to like continue boss babying, but like it is hilarious how long it goes on. All of this is true. There's another guy on this song called Future, and as previously discussed in this series, that can go a long way for Jackie, and this is one of those cases where you talked about earlier about how Drake being kind of checked out of Hotline Bling is part of the appeal, and I feel exactly that way about Future in that like no one has ever made like not caring and giving a shit feel more cool and exciting than Future. Like no one has ever, like the line he has about like so many people want to have sex with bad bitches want to come by. I got so many bad bitches that I barely want her. Just like that idea of being like so bawling that you like are depressed. Actually, that is Future at his essence, and I think he is Go Girl giving us nothing in a way that makes me feel like I'm being nagged and want to hit on him, and that's great.
See, but the problem is if you don't care, I don't care either. I don't give a shit. Like, it's just nothing.
But he does care. That's the thing.
He does care. That's the thing, Rose. Is that he's
I'm
so
eating
clearly
an air
cares.
sandwich.
he's trying to put on the front of not caring while also caring so much.
Which was his trick at the time. He does pull it off better on other songs.
It's
but
true.
He still does.
The
trick
outro
still
now,
works
and this
on
song
this song.
still has like 500 minutes left.
Yeah, you said the outro was long, and then today when I listened to it, I did check the time and see a minute and a half left, and like spit out my drink. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm not gonna deny
this
that.
outro is longer than the collected works of Andrei Tarkovsky. This outro is longer than this podcast episode. This outro is longer than the remaining time span that the universe will have before we have the heat death of the sun and everything just goes kaput. Okay, this outro is fucking long, and I hate it. I hate it.
So Matty, all of this is true. Outro sucks, but we talked earlier this episode, Matty. Earlier this episode, you tried to do a very high voice. The thing that's different about Future and Drake is, of course, we all know the classic joke format of Drake singing voice, Drake rapping voice, right? Like he has the entirely two different. Future's version of that is Future rapping voice, higher Future rapping voice. And the best example of that is balling in the middle of the club, no jersey. I don't want no liquor because I drink that dirty. Like that.
You're really gonna say that and like as if like la-di-da-di-da Slava doesn't exist? Like
this walked so la-di. That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying that's the idealized version of it. This is the prototype.
Well, that's what I was saying about Hotline. Like what we're getting at here is that the line between Drake being bad, but I like it, and Drake being bad and it's annoying is like so razor thin that it's almost indistinguishable, and it's kind of all like up to the beholder. It's just generally like, how annoyed are you going to be? And I think there are more actively annoying things that Drake does on this record. Like I would rather listen to this than like Jumpman, for example, you know?
Yeah.
I
didn't realize how long. Like, I assumed this record was like relative. I assumed it was like relatively short. Like, oh, this record's only like 9 tracks, right? It's 11 tracks. That I did not realize it was like that long. But I think the thing is that there's 9 Drake and Future tracks, and then they both get ones at the end where Future has Jersey and then Drake has the 30 for 30 freestyle.
Which obviously not a great sign that the one
sorry, did someone just enter the call? I think I just saw
best.
Someone who
No, not yet, Rose. But yeah, Diamonds Dancing, it is again the longest outro ever made. Song itself is fine. Here's the thing with Drake. This is the last time that we are talking about Drake, I'm pretty sure, on the within the within
we've
this
got
season.
Nice for What. I know for a fact they gave Nice for What best
this is the last time that we're talking about Drake this season. We are rapidly approaching what I would describe as peak Drake, and that's not peak quality Drake. That is peak where Drake feels like culture, the peak of the culture. Is Drake in the next year.
This is right around when he starts trying to do he act like he on the team thing with college basketball teams where he suits up in like warm-up gear and tries to be like giving speeches at halftime.
I mean, he's just acting like he's on the team with everybody, like every fucking guy. He's like we're about to get to the point when he starts doing the patois like every other every other deep cut on the album.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's again. We will have more Drake thoughts in the next season, and so we're gonna leave it at that. We're gonna leave it at Drake. Again, we thought that time was gonna be peak Drake. It is not quite peak Drake, and we're gonna go for we got one more song on the playlist, and hold on a second. I'm who's. The bitch is back. Jeremiah, welcome back to the podcast.
What the fuck is up? I'm here to talk about the album of the decade. Boom, boom, boom.
Yes, we are talking about...
No ballots were rigged in the process of naming that album of the decade. Anyways, it snowed today. Kind of out of nowhere in DC. And it was lovely, thick, heavy snow. And so I got to take my first snowy diver's walk of the year. And it was blissful. Actually, no, I definitely took one earlier. But I took one like the first one of the winter that I took. Divers is the greatest album of all time. Alex unfortunately cannot join us. Which is actually for the best, because otherwise we would have just like gone back and forth doing Joanna Newsom lines in Bob Dylan voice. I can still do it if you want me to. I can still do that. You want me to?
I mean, if you want to, Alex did just send me a bunch of they did send me a bunch of audio files. So Alex did send in some transmissions.
I hope it's Bob voice stuff.
If you would like to hear them, I can play them. I have them in my messages. All right, they sent me a couple, so let's see what this first one is.
Hey, it's me, Alex. I got nothing to give. Nothing. But Joanna's the fucking GOAT. And Divers is the greatest album of all time. And I think that. And I wrote a whole thing about it. And, yeah. Leaving the City fucks and slaps and bangs and would fit perfectly on the new Kendrick Lamar album, as everyone knows.
There's more. Let's continue.
I blew the shit out of my back. I'm in constant pain. Yeah, I love this album. I love this song. New York sucks, apparently. That's what Joanna says. I don't know. I feel like the better New York diss track on this album, though, is Same Old Man, which she didn't even write. She just co-opted it perfectly. Because all things exist on the same continuum of time, and at the same time, as we all know. And this song would be so good on the new Kendrick Lamar album.
What?
I mean, I'm so cooked, guys. I didn't even mention Sappoconnican, which is obviously the actual, it's about, in part, New York City. It's not fully about, it's not exclusively about New York City. I really like on this song when she says, the longer you live, the higher the rent. That's so fucked up.
It's true. It's true.
Joanna Newsom and elderly Bob Dylan trading bars would be so sick. So fucking sick. I don't know how much you guys have gotten from Jero, but he's been really obsessed with, I can't even remember which one. Is it Modern Times? I don't know. One of the elderly Bob albums. And it's got some hot bars, like I'm staying with Aunt Sally, but she's not really my aunt. And
she's not really my aunt.
I'm in love with my second cousin. I tell myself I could be happy forever with her. I just think that'd be so sick.
You fucking called it.
Wow.
You called it.
Even after all this time, they're still so in sync. It's beautiful.
But Jeremiah, of course, we have you here to talk about Leaving the City by Joanna Newsom off the album Diverse, which was voted our number one album of the 2010s within the Indie Heads podcast, which it was not rigged. There was no behind-the-scenes machinations to make that number one.
Matty and Jeremiah made a perfect phone call. It was absolutely above board.
And you made the correct decision.
Exactly, precisely. Benji may or may not was not certainly put on my list in the top 10 for any backroom dealing reasons. Anyways, Divers is the greatest album of all time, and I think it's interesting that it doesn't quite get its due because Yeast and Have One on Me are so gargantuan. But Divers is, it is. I think it's just her best work. It's when I was listening to it, when I was listening to it today, and obviously losing my shit because it was snowing, and I was like, I was also just noticing, I always just notice new things every time I listen, but just the way that the sound patterning of her voice, of her lyrics, even if you don't even listen to what she's saying, just the way that it's the rhyme schemes are so irregular and so unexpected and so fresh, and it's just the way that she uses her voice both as melodic force and as percussion, and carries chords, and it's just so she's on a different level. And Divers, I think, is her most interesting and most complex work because it's coming from, you know, the most complex part of her life so far, which is, you know, on being on the verge of motherhood, being married to the guy who wrote Dick in a Box. And
I really think Sushi Glory Hole could have been improved with Joanna.
Written Dick in a Box.
The guy
We
who
all know
wrote
that she ghost
Sushi Glory Hole.
Exactly.
everything. I bet she ghost wrote that too.
Us putting Joanna Newsom Divers at the top of the decade list, hear us out. Hear us out.
Hear us out.
Okay. There's one thing I'll say. When we posted our thread on Indie Heads, which was very arrogant of us, but there was somebody in there with like a Joanna Newsom flair who we didn't know. And they were like, as I was scrolling, you know, I saw Have One on Me in '93, and I was getting shook. And as we got closer and closer to the top one, I was like, no way they did this. No way they did this. And then when they saw Divers at number 1, they like lost their minds and were so excited. And that was like, that was so gratifying and moving. Anyways, I don't really, I realize now that like I had so much more just like memes to fling about I Love You Honey Bear, which by the way, picked up the new Father John Misty album today, bought it on vinyl, boom, got it at my local record store, boom. Haven't listened to it yet.
Oh, you're gonna die.
You're gonna do backflips, Jeremiah.
You're actually
backflips.
Gonna die. Like the White Album comparisons are not even like bullshit. It's crazy.
Oh, fun. I mean, I heard they were playing it anyway, sorry. Let me stay on track. What I learned. Here's the thing about Divers. I listen to it like every so often, many times a year. I always learn something new about it. What I learned in the last calendar year, or the last 365 days, is that it is the greatest. I already knew it was the greatest cemetery album of all time. Walking through a cemetery, listening to Divers, unparalleled. Nothing beats it. Walking through Paris cemeteries while listening to Divers.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I listened to it at least like 15 times walking around all the cemeteries in Paris. It was
How many cemeteries were there in Paris?
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Exactly.
God damn.
I'm trying to remember. Don't let me get in my tomb. Don't let me get. What else did he say after? You let me get in my zone. What is the?
He's definitely
in my zone.
I'm definitely in my zone.
I'm definitely in my tomb.
We really shouldn't have let him into his zone, is what we've realized in hindsight.
Listen,
right.
If there's anything I learned from watching Andrei Tarkovsky's seminal film Stalker, it's that you should not let a man into his zone, okay?
Never.
Zone.
Poem zone, it's true. It's different zone.
Listen, I'm always in the damn poem zone, okay? Last night, I must have been in there.
I would like to report, so I think I'm probably the only person that had not listened to this before, because I have always remained at a distance from Joanna Newsom. I really, really liked this song. The thing that has always been my problem with Joanna Newsom still happened, which is that like her voice is so beautiful, but like the only way I can describe it is it's like I'm holding like a glass bird in my hand and it's pretty, but I'm really afraid of breaking it. And I'm just like, someone take this away from me. It's too fragile. I need someone else to hold it. I'm nervous holding it. It's beautiful, but please someone else take this.
Okay, I'll take the bird. I will gladly take the bird from you right now.
I find it kind of like hard to listen to how like intense and crazy her voice is. But the thing I was impressed by with this song is that like, as someone who conceptualizes her mostly as just like harps are playing and she's saying some crazy poetry about how the cause is Ozymandian, this song rips. Like the way it builds and the guitar and all the arrangement, it's fucking crazy. Like I was not prepared for all the like stuff this was gonna do musically. And so I'm going to give this record a good listen and try to get over my Joanna Newsom voice thing, because I get it in concept. I just need to like acclimate myself more, I think.
That is the thing about Divers, is that it does just absolutely rip. Like there are so many unexpected drum parts that come in. Also, the instrumentation is so varied and so wild and so interesting. And it is so ornate. It's so layered. It actually kind of reminds me like Kaput, where it's just like you'll hear a noise and be like, I don't know what that was. I don't know where it came from.
Oh, by the way,
so
Jeremiah, guess what? Another song I heard for the first time this week, Times Square by Destroyer. Turns out it's a perfect song. Turns out, I've been sleeping on it.
Didn't Dream Lover are perfect songs, and then they didn't give the album Best New Music, which was really bizarre.
About that. What the fuck?
This is the
I
thing.
thought about that. That was crazy.
Jeremiah leaves, but they never really. You're still here. You're still with us in spirit.
Yes, they have a weird relationship with giving Destroyer best new music or not giving Destroyer best new music, but that's neither here nor there. I still can't believe. So when Matty texted me, I was like, "Yes, we're gonna talk about Sapakonigan, right? Because that's the one that got best new track." He was like, "No, it was actually Leaving the City," which is deserving because Leaving the City is such a fucking banger. But I'm actually very startled that they didn't give. I really thought they gave Sapakonigan best new music. Clearly, the years have not been kind to me in that way.
There's been a couple of those this episode. There's been a couple where it's like they picked this one over this one.
That had the Paul Thomas Anderson music video, which of course,
honestly,
my biggest relationship with Joanna Newsom, as anyone who knows me knows, is as the narrator of the best film of all time, Inherent Vice, which is her best work in my opinion. But
well, also that if we're talking about like the best circumstances in which to listen to Divers, really nothing beats walking around Manhattan and listening to Sapakonigan and pretending that you are Joanna Newsom in the video.
Very
just
true.
Like in your big coat, just like wandering around the streets. Oh, the best.
But yeah,
for me, her best role is as the goth nurse and pop star. Never stopping. The one that flatlines Bill Hader.
Have you guys been listening to the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast?
It came up earlier this episode.
So good. So good. I loved when they were talking about, I think it was the Sushi Glory Hole episode. Joanna got a shout out because he said that Andy said it was very natural for him to play Doug, whatever his last name is, because he too has a wife that's way more talented than he is.
Facts. Doug Imhoff. We're already forgetting our characters with the 2024 election.
He also said that they watch the Lord of the Rings extended movies every year, which is so important because I think my best ever Letterboxd review is for Return of the King, and it is, y'all ever see Ys and Return of the King in the same room before?
Mm-hmm. Although your
usual,
best review ever, although Jeremiah, your best review ever is of course a part of the Indie Heads podcast, top 100 albums of the decade, where you just posted what was it?
Ram in a Thicket.
Ram in a Thicket to describe Kaput by Destroyer.
I stand by that.
Yeah. Matty, can you pull the visual representation for Grace?
Alex describing the Great Molasses Flood.
Oh my god, I forgot about that episode.
Caught up.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not gonna make a lot more sense when you see it, but Matty, if you can pull it up real quick, if you could find the.
Yeah. I'll try to find the best of the decade list. But while I do that, Jeremiah,
you guys should edit the Ram the Thicket into the
album art.
Into the thumbnail.
Unfortunately, it's already the picture of Donald Trump dancing to Hotline Bling. I hate to inform.
That's first.
It's gonna be because we talked about Hotline Bling this episode, Jeremiah.
This is what I'm saying.
I've been betrayed. It's
Let
okay.
me see. All right, let's see. Can I get to Destroyer? Of course I do. It's one of the most iconic moments in Indie Heads history.
2 weeks.
Fucked up.
That's really fucked up. What? Oh my god.
This is the most I need to. I've had this plan for
Grace,
ages, even before I got drunk and lost
Jeremiah's review of Destroyer Kaput. It first begins with Ram in a Thicket.
Okay.
Sculptor
That's
unknown.
beautiful, actually.
Your review.
Day after day, we stuck nor breath nor motion, as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. Water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink. Water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. The very deep did rot. O Christ, that ever this shall be. Yeah, slimy things did crawl with legs upon the slimy sea. Jeremiah writes about the album. This album is magical. My head hurts, but this album is magical, and Dan Behar is the only person I can trust. I'm not sure there is an album as well produced or mixed as this one, for one thing. For another, Dan Behar is the only person I can trust. It is about 8 spaces too long on this list, as it occupies a coveted spot in a holy trinity that is apparently known only to me, but I think known in most hearts. This is very long. It's very long.
It goes on for a while.
We're not talking Kaput.
Show us.
It goes on for a while.
Newsom album of the decade. Let me see it. Let me see the beauty of it.
Let's see that number one more time. Me, Divers, ascending from the deep with its army of millions of drowned horsemen. The cost is Ozymandian.
Yeah, so Alex wrote a really beautiful piece You should link it in the
Never reading
comments.
this.
Alex wrote a really beautiful piece. But the funny thing about Divers is that I can meme infinitely about like Psychopomp and like Kaput even, but like Divers is so magical and special and inscrutable. It's just such a sacred album. She really it's also her most accessible work by
It's
far.
her most accessible, but also at the same time kind of her most high concept.
Yes,
Which
100%.
feels like it should be impossible. Also,
Yeah, so just why like when people like who should I like what Joanna Newsom should I listen to? I'm like
all of it.
in theory, Divers, but I don't think so.
I want to see. I'm like Divers is the best, but you got to work up to it. But also, it is mind-boggling to me that like this is probably her like least critically acclaimed record. Like it's the only one that Pitchfork gave less than a 9, and it didn't end up on their decade list, which is just shocking to me.
Oh, that part's crazy.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about Divers is that I think it's just because it doesn't have the same like East's 5 songs and each song is more than 10 minutes. Whoa. And
that
like have one on music triple album. Whoa. And Milk Eyed Bender is weird. Whoa. I think like Divers like just kind of gets forgotten, which is wrong because it is like her most. I mean, it really is just such a complete statement and of like just it's such a complete artistic statement and so. I mean, it's just staggering.
And next year it turns 10,
which is wrong.
Fucked up. I re-listened to Divers both like. I always listen to it in between Christmas and New Year's, usually closer to New Year's. To listen to it. And I also always listen to it the night before my birthday, which I did a couple days ago. So like whenever whenever I'm going into like a new year, just any time where I'm like, I need to sit and like listen to something that is going to make me feel insignificant, but in a really beautiful and humbling way. And like also give me a total mind fuck about the concept of time. And it just like keeps revealing itself to you every time you listen to it again. It's just one of those records. Like, I don't know. I listen to Time as a Symptom and I'm like, yeah, I want to die to this song, but also like go back in time and be born to this song.
And also live forever because the
moment
of your greatest joy sustains, nor hammer, tumor, tremor can take that away, and it remains.
Also, rest in peace,
I would recommend continue.
Rest in peace, Steve Albini. I thought about how a couple months ago, like there was a photo going around of Joanna's harp in his studio, and I'm just like, fuck, like,
oh yeah,
give it to me. Whatever the fuck came out of those sessions, I need to hear it.
Well, this one was engineered by him.
Yeah.
All of them were. All 4 of her albums were engineered by Albini, which is sick.
And Yeast.
And Yeast, yeah. Yeast was also string arranged by Van Dyke Parks. You're like, what?
Fucking crazy.
There are two kinds of people. There are people that are like, did you know that Steve Albini did the Magnolia Electric Company? Or did you know that Steve Albini did Yeast and Divers? Like, those are the 2 genders. And I'm the other gender, but I respect Steve Albini deeply, and I respect Joanna Newsom. And I think the thing I've always been most impressed about as someone who has really only like dabbled in her music and has not really given this record the time, just the fact that, as you said before, that like Andy Samberg dicked her down so good that she wrote the greatest album of all time is just like the most beautiful thing to me. Like, yes, like writing an album about how being in love with Andy Samberg is like the most beautiful thing in the world. Like, that's real. I get it. I get you, Joanna Newsom.
Yeah. No, you listen to, you know, I don't want to like, it's hers, it's her work of genius. I don't want to give all the credit to the man that inspired it, but also like you listen to Divers and you're like, holy shit, like
this is about the guy who wrote Dick in a Box.
Samberg Dick goes crazy. Like but also it is.
I mean, we brought up Volicura earlier, which is the canonical all-time greatest. Like Dick has me going like circles around my head, cartoon characters like circling around my head, and this is also that. That's
it's also like it is crazy because this is one of the most like both lowercase and capital R romantic albums of all time. Like just. because it's all about like, oh, like I'm in love, and this is like renewing my love for life itself and the world around me, but also like it's instilling this horrible fear in me of dying and of like inviting death into my life, but also like I know that death can like the death and love can't exist separately, and it's and you're like, oh yeah, like she like all of those revelations are not all, but many of those revelations can be traced back to like, oh, she's singing about Dick in a Box Man, and that's beautiful.
Okay, I have to step
it really
out.
is.
But
Yes.
thank you guys for having me on to talk about divers.
Of course, Jeremiah.
Grace, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thought we could geek out over divers together.
I go back. I go way back. We're actually like the 10-year anniversary is coming.
10-year anniversary
Jesus
in December.
Christ.
10-year anniversary is in December. Wink, wink. Get ready for that
Oh,
anniversary.
no.
Wink, wink.
Um,
We have something special planned. Wink, wink.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, no, Divers is the best album of all time. I highly recommend, if next time you're in Paris, going to Père Lachaise Cemetery and walking around and then getting kicked out of Père Lachaise Cemetery by its security guards because it's New Year's Eve and they want to go home. And like having that happen while time as a symptom is like about to peak.
Oh,
Just hit different. Just tough.
I believe you.
Toughest shit ever. Thinking about how the album ends with the word trans and then begins with the word sending, and how she's woke and based and an ally.
also the sounds of what are the night jars, or yeah, at the beginning and at the end. My mom has a clock that every hour is a different bird, and it makes the noises of the birds, and it's really annoying. And I think the 6 p.m. one is like the diver's bird, whatever it is.
Nice.
And so
Yeah, there's doves around my house growing up, so when I heard them on the track, I was like, I know them. Okay. I gotta go. I will give you my best Bob Dylan, Joanna Newsom impression. If I had the space
Okay.
of half the day, oh, I'm ashamed of half the things I say. I'm ashamed to have turned out this way. You know, I desire to make amends. Thanks for your time. Godspeed.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Goodbye.
That is now twice that
Oh,
Jeremiah
God.
has just like come in like a whirlwind into our podcast and just taken it over, and I love it every
Yeah,
time.
no, I specifically was like, Jeremiah, we're going to. I'm just gonna send you the Zoom link. I'm gonna send you the Zoom link when we're about to talk about the song. So join if you want to. If you can't make it, that is okay. And I'm very glad that Jeremiah could make it. And I think that is a good end to the
Yes.
episode. So let's go on and ask the questions that we're always asking at the end of the episodes. What is the most 2015 song of the week? What is the worst song of the week? And what is the best song of the week? Grace, you are our guest. What is the best, worst, and most 2015?
okay. I want to start on the negative note, so I think I'm gonna go with worst song first. It's got to be Neon Indian Slumlord. Not my thing. Doesn't do anything for me.
Grace saw my dance moves. She saw my vulnerability,
and I
and
said
even then,
I've
she still
seen
hates it.
enough. No, I think it was
Everybody hates me.
That's the only song on this playlist I think that I can say like I dislike it. Like there's others that I'm like I don't have strong feelings about it. I don't even have particularly strong feelings. It's not like I hate the song, but not a fan. Most 2015 song, I feel like it has to be Hotline Bling. Like that song was
I get
it
it.
was everywhere. I mean, it's a 2015 song in that it's strange because it has like kind of outlived that era, and it's still like in the it does feel like it's just like existed forever, but also is so like at the time was just so ubiquitous. But there's other stuff on this playlist that also feels like the Dr. Dre song that's like, oh, it never left 2015.
It depends. It depends on how you.
Yeah, we
judge
just
it.
kind of abandoned it there. And then best song, Joanna Newsom, Leaving the City. Like like I love the Twig song, I love the Destroyer song as well, but like I gotta give it to Joanna. Drivers is a perfect album, and that's not even the best song on it, but it's pretty damn close.
There we go.
All right.
Jackie.
I'll go quick. Worst song of the week, Drake, Hotline Bling. I made my case. I would also say that it is the most 2015 ass song of the week. Diamonds Dancing is pretty 2015, but like in a positive way, versus I think the thing that put it over the edge is the Hotline Bling single art font, which just like,
yeah,
if we live long enough to see the end of Instagram, when this song is played at like a wedding 30 years from now, we will all think about Instagram. Does that make sense? And that's why it's the most 2015 song of the week, is that it just feels like being on the platform internet derogatory. And then best song of the week, I gotta go with In Time, just because it's the only one that like blew my mind at the time and blew my mind just as much now. However, Destroyer, Times Square, pretty close runner up. I think that's probably my other like best song of the week. Joanna Newsom also was very good. Shadow was also very good, but those two are the top of the heap this week for me.
Rose, your picks.
Okay, so first of all, most 2015. If I could award most void of time that just like completely destroys your soul the second you walk in, I'd probably pick Genocide by Dr. Dre, but instead I must award the song that exists in a very specific slot of time, so I'm going to give that to Neon Indian, because I truly cannot associate that song with anything but being on the internet in 2015 and having to listen to people talk about this album, because nobody talked about that album afterwards. Worst
true.
song, this Diamonds Dancing. Like I really just I cannot with that. No more.
It's
no
fair.
more. Drake,
I have no
please.
defense for the end.
I'm so glad we are taking a break from Drake for a little while, because holy shit, I'm so tired of this guy, and we still have like another season of this.
Unless he gets voted to the Cuts episode. He might get voted to the Cuts episode. It's entirely possible. We have to consider that. Maybe your listeners will be
please,
kind
listeners,
to us.
listeners. I'm begging you directly. Listen to me here. Listen to my voice. Please don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Do not do this to me. Please be nice. Be nice. Thank you. Best song of the week. Let me make sure I'm reading this correctly. Times Square. you got to say it like that, or else it doesn't count.
Oh God.
Rose, quick question though. What is the song this week that most makes YG want to do his dance? YG do his dance.
I'm sure he would dance to any song. I think he would really love to dance to "Leaving the City" by Joanna Newsom. I think he would have some wonderful moves for that. But
I'd like to see him doing his dance to "Shadow" by Chromatics. I could see that happening.
I'd really love to see him feel the same in the club and the rave, you know? Like, I think he would have a lot of thoughts there. Well, either way, do dance, YG, do dance.
I think he could do his dance to Times Square by Destroyer.
You used to do your dance.
YG.
You used to do your dance. All right, my picks.
You used to dance me on your watch.
God damn it. All right, most 2015 song of the week. I'm gonna pick a pick that's gonna get people mad at me, but I don't care. Most 2015 this week is Cellular Device by Erykah Badu, because when else would a Hotline Bling cover get best new track? That's how it's almost more 2015.
You're right.
It's almost more 2015 than Hotline Bling itself. Which is not it is 2015 neutral. That is, but when I think of 2015, it's like, okay, yeah, of course this is, and it's a song I didn't even listen to until this fucking episode. But even then, the 2015 of it all seeped in. But of course, that doesn't mean that Holly and Bling is a very close runner up for most 2015. Worst song of the week. Yeah, I gotta go Diamonds Dancing. The first 3 minutes is a solid song, and then it's 2 minutes of Drake doing a drone song, and that sounds awesome on paper. Does not work in execution. Just no. But it's not that bad at the end of the day. But if you have to pick a worst, that's the worst. Best song of the week, In Time, FK Twigs. It's an 11. It's if we are doing an indie heads rate, this would be my 11 out of 10. This is the one that I would give the 11 to. It's fucking great, but obviously, honorable mentions to Slumlord and C Calls Me Home. Slumlord innocent, but I get it. Slumlords as a concept, no, not innocent. Actually, we should all. But the song itself, again, be kind. Be kind.
If we're going to talk about Slumlords, just go listen to Bomb the Music Industry Slumlord. You'll have a much better time.
I thought for sure you were setting up a Waves joke there, but that can be where we leave it, is the Waves joke you didn't make.
Well, all right. That'll wrap it up for this episode. Grace, thank you for coming back on the pod.
Thanks for
Anything you want to
having me.
plug before we head out?
Sure, yeah. I have writing in Stereo Gum and Paste and The Alternative. I also have a Substack newsletter called Our Band Could Be Your Wife. And I was recently on, not to mention another podcast on your podcast, I don't know if that's illegal, but I was on an episode of Ear Buddies.
We're calling
recently.
the cops right now.
Oh, fuck. Well, you can delete that if that's not allowed, but...
No, please plug.
Okay. Yeah, at Grace Rosso or Grace_Rosso on all the platforms.
Well, there we
Follow
go.
and read Grace if you're not already. Chances are you are. Like we live in the same corner of the internet, but
there's a lot of crossover in audience. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, but that means we only have 3 more episodes of the season and 1 more free episode this season as we go into our final 2015 canonical episode. And of course, we have the 2015 cuts as a bonus episode for the month of December. And then we get into our year-end list stuff. We have podcast awards, the year cast, and, the Idiots podcast turns 10 in December. So maybe we'll have something out for our 10-year anniversary. You're just going to have to wait and see. But that'll wrap it up for this week. We'll see you all next week as we finally end the year of 2015 off in style with one last playlist canonically, and then cuts, and then Jackie's should have beens as our as the proper season capper of it all. So yeah, hopefully enjoy listening to this episode. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
You've been waiting for this moment. Well, people, here it is. Dads are getting in on this. Teachers getting in on this. Your tax guys getting in on this. Yeah.
You used to call me on the cell phone.
Some people dance like this.
Call me on the cell phone.